Okay. All right. Here we go. All right. I think we're good. I see us on YouTube, Twitch.
I'll get it pulled up on Twitch.
Twitch is up. All right. Well,
Hi,
guys.
Wiz.
Yeah. Wizzy. Evening. Welcome to the little pre-show 1v1 with our boy Dr. Burns. It's always honestly a pleasure to have you, man. It's quite crazy, man. I always like to think that I contributed to your success. I
100%.
always like to think that, just to make me feel a little bit better, because I mean, honestly, like you honestly had such a great, video essays, and how you were producing them. Your edits are just next level, and you've only gotten better. Like, God, if we were to look at some of your older videos compared to now, they're almost night and day. And I was just gonna ask you, like, do you, like, on your very little spare time, because you have a full-time job as a doctor, then you have a family and have all this stuff, are you like going on YouTube videos and looking up like editing tutorials, or like how to get better at editing, or did you always have that knack?
So first of all, I want to say thank you because you invited me on really early on. I mean, there was Golden Feather and you super early. So
Yeah.
you were super nice. I can't remember what you said, but you said something about a bunch of potential, and I was like, oh man, what a nice thing for him to say. And then after we were done talking, you're like, bro, thumbnails, work on them a little bit. And I said, okay. And then I really took that to heart, and that's still something I'm wrestling with. Right, thumbnails are difficult, period.
That is a game that you literally have to just evolve and get better. Like, even myself, like,
Yeah,
I don't even consider myself even an intermediate person. I'm still very novice at thumbnails. But it's
same.
just, for me, like, I think it's just about, what I click on that, right? And I think a lot
Yeah,
of people, like, if you go and actually just do a little bit of research, and all the videos that you enjoy, look at their thumbnails. Like, what is it about
correct.
their thumbnails that makes it attractive to you to click on? You know what I mean? And again, I think for me, I feel like it's more of a little bit of creativity, but also a little bit of like editing, right? And I feel like the program that I use to make my thumbnails is very beginner, and there's not a lot of blending and highlighting and like the neon outline kind of tools to help make thumbnails kind of stand out. And the whole like depth perception stuff too,
Sure.
like I don't have that access, you know what I mean? But it's like, Roro always told me, it's like, dude, just get the program. There are programs out there that you can get that are free, but
Yeah.
they're just way more professional. Like, that you have to do your little bit of research, and go in and really research on how to do a simple feature in that program. But I mean, for you, like, I just want to kind of press you a little bit on this question for the editing style. Like,
Mm.
did you always have that, as far as like, were you always a really good editor, and or know exactly, like, because I know everyone's process is different. Did you always have like a story in mind when it came to, I'm gonna do this video and I'm gonna blend this bit of storytelling in with my video?
Yeah, that's so, like, my process has evolved over time. It started though in high school. I never really did any video, like, serious video editing or whatever, but
Right.
just, like, as memes in high school, and this was back, I mean, 2005, right? My
Oh
friends,
yeah.
for their birthday, I would give them, like, I would make them a CD. I'd burn it onto a CD. It would be like, a slideshow of all of like pictures of them and then pictures of us together. But then I would take pictures of like them and other friends, and I would crudely cut my face out and I would put it on theirs, like, and I did it like on their prom dates and stuff, and put it to music, and that was what I did for a few of my friends' birthdays, and everyone loved it. But yeah, that was like my first foray into video editing, and that was that took off. Yeah, a lot of people like that. But then I still need to link some of my old YouTube videos because I mean, it wasn't very edited at all, but I had some practice with it, right? So
Right.
yeah, I'm getting a little feedback. I can hear myself right now. Oh, let's see. What if I mute this? This is probably better. Anyways, Okay, yeah. So with my old YouTube channel, I learned just basic, more basic editing things as well, and started adventuring a little bit more. But then residency hit. But I still would think about stuff, and oh, okay, video editing. I would it's like I thought about things. I thought about wanting to create another YouTube channel again during residency. Just had zero time. And then once residency ended, I was like, okay, yeah, let's start getting back into this. So my process now, I script. My scripting takes, I mean, 60% of my time because I want my content to be good. I want it to flow naturally, and
Right.
then I story. So I'll script. I'll write down a bunch of ideas, and maybe there's a couple like one-liners that I want in the video or something like that. So I will write all of those down, and then I start expanding the ideas, and then I incorporate the one-liners, incorporate the stories, think about the kind of moral or overall message that I'm trying to get across, and then I try to think about what kind of stupid animation I could do for an intro. And dude, your intro was fantastic. I appreciated your help
Oh,
with
dude,
that. So
it was an honor, man. Honestly, like I really love how certain YouTubers just come on the come up, man. And I again, like I just feel like the way you're going, dude, like you can literally overtake Narc 100%. Like I have 100% faith in that because again, there's a lot of advantages that you have, even though you may not have the exposure yet. I'm going to say that as a big caveat. The way you present the storytelling was almost in the same kind of way, other very successful content creators have done, the blending of like the telling of a story to the point of your video in a very funny, informative. There's a lot of stuff that I actually learn watching your videos, like, cause you actually give
thanks, man.
like certain, real life knowledge of like, whether it's like, was your animal husbandry video and talking about like
Right.
the genos, what was the term that,
Yeah, Mendelian genetics.
Mendelian
Grazer Mendel.
genetics. Yes. And then you started bringing in that conversation and really almost like to the people like myself that it's like I hear that word and I'm like, okay, I don't understand what that is, but okay, cool. But then you bring like not only the definition, but like the hindsight and the reasoning of why that statement from them was so powerful. And that is, I think, the reasoning why I myself gravitate to your videos, and I think a lot of people gravitate to your
Appreciate it.
videos. And I think again,
Dude,
once
and then Steven commented on that video. That was a bit of a guess. It was a bit of a guess. And then
really.
Steven commented on it. And I was like, okay, there we
Oh
go.
my
There we
god, it's
go.
always so nice, dude. And again, like I feel like that's the other thing. We were talking a little bit yesterday about this, about how amazing it is to be a content creator for a game where the people that are at this company actually watch and comment and
Yeah.
get involved, right? Like these people
Right.
are in um our Twitch streams and our YouTube comments and stuff like that, like answering stuff on forums. Like it's crazy. And again, like most of the time, especially with a lot of us came from like AAA games, it's always in this way where it feels very much disingenuous, right? It feels like, I don't know, like you say some feedback or whatever, and then they come up with some corporate speech as to like, hi guys, we listened to your feedback, and it feels so generic, it feels so hollow, and it feels very disingenuous to like what the
Yeah.
people are actually asking for. And you coming from New World, I am sure staying in that
Yeah.
game for the year it was in was a tailspin for a lot of players that were really trying to commit themselves to that game. And there was just so many issues, so many problems, and the growing pains of that game where the developers literally had to play catch up for, I mean, they're still
Yeah.
playing catch up. I
Eight
mean,
months.
let's just be honest,
True.
right? Like,
Yeah.
and I think they've come a long way, but
Right.
what is that worth to us as gamers? Now people are not even
Yeah.
interested in this game. There's no interest in New World, even though it has gotten better. There's more content. The story, the questing, everything has gotten better, but yet people don't care because it's too little,
There's
too
more
late.
content, but there are no more loops. Everything like
Yep.
end game, there's nothing more end game. So someone's got pneumonia and they're amputating a leg. It's like, wait, why does that doesn't make any sense? Why would you do that? The big moment for me with New World was I gave them the benefit of the doubt, the developers. I was like, hey,
Right.
they're playing catch up, but they're going to start doing other stuff. And then when a roadmap came out and I know it wasn't a roadmap. It was they were like, hey, brand new system coming out, guys. It's gonna be awesome. Check it out. And I was
Right.
like, oh, sweet. Maybe they've added a bunch of PvE stuff. Maybe they're gonna add another PvP, like, and maybe a new battleground map. Nope. It was music and a system nobody was asking for, but clearly they had done some work on it previously, and so they just wanted to push it out. And I was like, oh man, this is rough. And so it gave a lot of people, a lot of my guild at that time were like, oh, this is really bad, guys, because it's such a bad prognostic indicator of what's coming for the future. Oh, these guys don't actually know how to make an MMO. These guys don't actually understand content and what's important for what's coming out.
I mean, I've actually heard this same exact thing from people on Reddit, people in the forums, people in the Discord, that there's a lot of people questioning, can Intrepid even make this kind of game? Like, are people, there isn't a track record with them. There isn't any other
Sure.
games that Intrepid has made that can give us like comfort in the fact that these people know what they're doing. They're trying to prove themselves, like, literally in this game. And I think to some of us, like, I'm personally not worried. Like, and I don't know if that comes from a bit of hopium or just, I guess for me, the reason why I'm not worried is because Steven, especially earlier on, there's not a lot of people left that were from the original hiring phase from like 2017 to like 2019. There's not a lot of those original developers there. I think they solidified their development team in 2020. And I think from 2020 on, we've gotten, like, most of the people that are there from 2020 are still there today. And I think, because of the loud mouthpiece that Lazy Peon did with his video, I think that not only attracted all of us, but potentially other developers that were like, oh my God, this game, this concept could actually have something to it. Like, I actually want to be a part of that, right? So you had developers that probably didn't have a lot of experience in 2017 to 2019. And then after the Lazy Peon video, now he's probably getting some pretty heavy hitters. And, again, we have the ESO person that was like the quest designer or like the lead narrative designer, I think. And so now we have some like people, and even the lead game designer that Steven just hired. God, why am I blanking on this?
EverQuest guy. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Bill Trost, sorry.
Yeah.
Bill Trost, you know what I mean? And he has plenty of MMO experience. But again, like, the other part about it is that even though they may not have like, MMO development experience, right? The fact that he's hiring people with like the knowledge and the passion of the player, right? Because all of these people are MMO players first, and then they're developers. I think honestly that gives them more of an incentive to create better content because they're coming at it from a gamer's perspective rather than a developing perspective. So I don't know if you want to comment on anything.
To your point, I mean, modern day, in the year, end of 2023, beginning 2024, if someone were to say, "Oh yeah, hey, a AAA game coming out," I'd be like, what is it? What's going on?" And then someone said, "Oh yeah, this indie studio made this game." I'd be like, "Oh, okay, tell me more about it." Like, that's where we've come to, because a big part of it is there are, for whatever reason, there are certain priorities that AAA game studios have instead of making a good product. They're not necessarily appealing to the gamers. They have other reasons or agendas. I don't want to get into here, but if you sacrifice the quality of your product for some other agenda, some other reason, then your product suffers. And we are seeing that time and time again here with AAA game studios. But yet you have the indie developers who just forge ahead with what they're doing, don't care about anything else, like the Helldivers devs. Everyone's like, "Hey, when are you putting PvP in?" They're like, "Nah, that's not the game we're making. We're making what we want to make." So,
true.
See ya.
Based. I mean, again, I think it's because they have a vision, right? And they when they hear people's feedback as to like, "Oh, that's not what we're doing. Like, that's not about like something we're trying to do or trying to implement." And I think they don't want to give gamers the wrong impression either, right? They're trying to be true to their vision and true to what they are doing and going full steam ahead on that. And I love that. I think, again, like, it's fine whenever you see a game and you're like, oh, okay, that's not for me. But damn, when a game is for you, like, again, like Helldivers, like Pal World, like,
Yeah.
you know, like the number of games that have been coming out this year. Like I think this is the year mostly for survival games, because there's been a crap ton of survival games that have came out recently. I'm not a survival game person. I've it's just not
Sure.
my genre particularly, but I do love the fact that there's people like, because last year, man, it was hard being in Discord sometimes because there was like no games for anyone to play. Baldur's Gate 3 was a shining part of it for the later part of the year. For the majority of the year, though, there was just a lot of disappointment, a lot of you know, just like, oh God, man. Like, and juxtapose that to 2024, and people are just having a great old time. There's just a lot of games people are playing that people
Yeah.
are enjoying themselves and getting lost in, and I love that. And the majority of them are all like indie or AA studios that are coming out. Like it's kind of nuts.
Dude, and think about with Intrepid, they have zero other priorities other than making a good game. Like they have such a strong vision. Watching all these old videos back from 2017 as I do research for my videos, I'm
Right.
like, oh man, everything he's saying is applicable for now. And there have only been a couple direction changes on some specifics, but on broad things, I don't think there has been. I mean, maybe chat's aware, but in terms of like very like core game design, I don't think there's been change on much. And so
Right.
seeing all of the vision that they've had, especially Steven, I mean, moving forward, like it has been impressive how consistent it's been. And you know, that makes it so much easier. I made my video about the Lord of the Rings MMO, which really was just an indictment of AGS and how
Right.
their leadership has zero vision. Like
Right.
the frontline workers are very skilled. I went on Indeed and I looked at a bunch of their not Indeed, sorry. I went on
LinkedIn.
LinkedIn, thank you, and looked at a bunch of their. I looked at the leadership, but then I looked at the frontline developers to see what projects and games they've been on. Dude, they've been on a bunch of stuff. Like they had some really good devs, but the problem is the tools are only as good as the person using them, and
Right.
so the leadership was so bad it couldn't push the frontline devs into a functional direction,
Right.
and because there was no vision. But I mean, Intrepid Steven has vision in spades, maybe a
Oh,
little too much.
yeah, I know. I think a little bit too much ambition sometimes. But I guess we'll go ahead and we'll get started on this 1v1. You ready to get started? I think that was a good enough
Let's-
pre-show for people. You know, people are in here, they're primed, they're ready to go. And we actually have a little bit of an announcement, and I think we'll do that at the start of this 1v1. How about that, Burns?
Sure, sounds good.
Okay, sounds good. All right, guys.
Don't out me, Vlhadus. Don't
Oh,
out
I
me.
want. All right, no, I won't. I promise. I promise.
I'm just kidding.
No promises. I'm sorry. No, I'm just. All right, let's get this started. All right, 3, 2, 1. Hey guys, welcome back to the 1v1 podcast. I am your host Vlhadus, and coming to you live from YouTube and Twitch. I have the very only doctor in our community, the one and only Dr. Burns from Ashes of Relation. How are you doing today, man?
Good, man. Thanks for having me on again.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. And again, I just want to just thank you for taking the time out of your busy schedule to come in and chat with me. But you've actually done something pretty bold and daring of you. And so I don't know, do you want to go ahead and for those listening, you're not really going to see what's about to happen, but you know, drum roll, I guess.
I mean, it rhymes with bold.
Welcome, Joey Swole Jr., guys.
Oh, wait, hold on.
Be
Hey,
better.
wait.
Be better.
Well, oh no, I lost it. Mind your own business. Be better.
Dude, it looks good, man. Honestly, like I always
Thanks.
thought, like if Aspen actually just got the balls to just shave off his head, I think he could be like again, like a Giga Chad too. Like I don't think there's anything wrong with like being bald. Like I honestly, like there was 2 times in high school that I shaved my head completely. So I didn't care. Like I've always had a full set of hair, but it doesn't bother me to like, and it was so funny because I actually got people gave me compliments. People were actually thinking I was going to the military because I was an ROTC in high school. So they're like, wait, are you going to go in the military? Because I did, the last time I shaved my head was in my senior year. So people were assuming, oh man, he probably signed with, you know, Air Force or, you know, Army or whatever. I did not. I just did it to just to do it. Because honestly, like I just hated styling my hair in high school all the time. And it was just so nice just to wake up and not have to worry about it.
Bro, like, I have wanted to do it for a while, but my wife was like, "No, I don't want you to." And then the other morning, I was like, "Nope, I'm tired of it." So I picked it. I want it to be longer than this, so I'm gonna let it grow out a little bit. But
Right.
this is and then also I was watching Lore Forge and I was like, "Man, I really want to replace Sunny. So what can I do to strengthen my application?" Oh, I need to look more
Like
like
cash
Jibs
and
and
jibs.
Cash. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh man, well it looks great on you, man. Like kudos to you,
Yeah,
man. Because I
thanks.
know that for some guys, right, it's like you know, if they feel like less masculine. But again, if you look at all of the dudes that are bald, they're like the most masculine
Yeah.
guys I've ever
It's a
seen.
little
You know,
it comes very masculine. Yeah, you
well,
don't see a lot of bald women.
well, true, but I mean, I would say that most of the time, genetically, not going into the animal
Yeah.
husbandry conversation, but genetically, like for
Let's
people,
do it.
for men that are losing their hair, isn't it because they have more testosterone? Isn't that
Yeah,
usually
so
the correlation there?
it is a lot of test. It can be because more testosterone, like an overall higher T count, but it's
Right.
also testosterone where it's being placed, where it's
Mm.
being synthesized and used and stuff. And yeah, when it's going up here, that yeah, that that can cause some hair loss. But yeah, whatever. I'm playing around with it, seeing what I like or not. But yeah, it's fun to do.
Yeah, it looks good on you, man. Seriously, like
Appreciate it.
I would suggest to keep it, but
It is,
it's
but it's
whatever.
cold though, man, and I'm up
You
here
gotta
in the
get a
north,
beanie,
and it
dude.
is,
You gotta get
bro.
a
Yeah,
beanie.
it is a little cold. I do like wearing hats now, like more than
Yes,
before. So I am.
yes.
It keeps the draft because it
Yeah, I
gets a
know.
little chilly.
Yeah, I know. Like that's the thing too, because I remember I love having my room cold. And I remember when I shaved my hair for the first time, I
Yeah,
was like, "Oh my god!" It's like I
yeah.
really, it's like wanting to like cuddle up and stuff like that. But anywho, now if you guys weren't watching us live on Twitch, we had a pretty amazing pre-show just talking about the culture of Ashes, Intrepid, AAA gaming compared to indie gaming right now, the state of 2024 gaming, all this other stuff. So guys, if you aren't subscribed to my YouTube, if you aren't following my Twitch, go do that because I go live randomly throughout the week, but I always go live on Friday nights at 7:30 Central. So always stay tuned for that. So now, Burns, your most recent video, bro. I got to tell you,
Mhm.
every time I always tell you this, but dude, it's that's how I know you're getting better. This is probably your best video that you've done.
Thanks, man.
It's so
What makes you say that?
because there's just sometimes when I look at your other videos and they're always entertaining, but it's like when I watch your most newest video, it's almost like an anime series that's going on where it's like the latest episode is just it's so freaking good. It doesn't mean that the last episodes weren't good. It's just you always and I every time when I watch this, like I want to watch another one. Like I want like give me the next one already. Like
Appreciate it.
why can't
Yeah,
you
it's a big
just make
compliment.
like 5 episodes at once? That way I can just watch them all. Like you know what I mean? But
Well,
no,
dude, they're long, man. Like
I
this
know.
last one was over 18. It was almost 19 minutes, and I was like, maybe chop this up into a couple. But I was like, nah,
No.
let's go full send.
Dude, and honestly, and this is again speaking for me, it didn't feel like 18 minutes. Like I watched
I
it and it felt
appreciate
like 5 minutes. And that's how you know you're watching a good
it.
video. Because again,
Sure.
a lot of the really great podcasts that I listen to that are like an hour and a half, 2 hours, especially when they're in a really good conversation, by the time I hear them say, "Hey guys, start of the show," and they're like, "All right, guys, well, we're done now." And it's like, wait, what? That wasn't 2 hours? Like it felt like
Yeah.
30 minutes. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
what's
for
going
sure.
on? And then again, that's how your episodes always are. But you made up some really, really good points in this video. And the all-seeing eye, the kind of world builder that Intrepid is making behind the scenes. It's
Yeah.
almost, in my opinion, very similar to Baldur's Gate 3, because in Baldur's Gate 3, there's like 14 different ways to do a singular quest, right? And
Sure.
and again, that takes not only a level of creativity, but also a level of detailing, right? Where you can look at a quest and figure out like how is a person going to go about this? You know what I mean? It very much is a D&D game, through and through. But I've always assumed you can't really do that in an MMO. An MMO is massive. Like how
Right.
can they do this in a way that feels refreshed, that feels new, that feels exciting, and isn't just on this railroad of doing the same kind of, thing, that everyone else is doing.
So like I liked. Sorry, I got caught up in chat. Did you ask a specific question? Because I was.
Oh, I guess I can ask you a question. So I guess for me, like how do you think that this world builder is going to evolve
Oh,
over the span of Alpha 2? Like, because do you think we're only going to get maybe a couple of variants of a quest instead of like, because I'm not expecting 12, right?
right.
But do you think, like, how would you expect them to keep evolving this world builder?
So yeah, a couple things. So my two main points from the video was first, yeah, the all-seeing eye, the world builder, the foundation of all their programming, where every big or like impactful system that they have hooks into it and it feeds them information. I have when I was listening to like when I drive to work and I listen to all the old live streams, I would listen to any time they were talking about data, like data gathering or monitoring stuff. And so I almost did a video specifically just about how Intrepid is obsessed with data. And
Right.
because they are, man. Like when you think about so sports, for example, now so much as, oh yeah, the analytics said they should go for it on fourth down here,
Mm,
right? Like
right.
everything is going in such a data driven way, and Intrepid is right there along with that. I mean, they I still might incorporate these clips into the video somehow, but like they are very focused on the information, on the data that they can gather. And what's interesting about the foundational programming that they have for Ashes is it provides them with all of that data. That's one of the
Right.
reasons why I think they'll be able to stop bots, which I mentioned slightly in my botting video, right? So
Right.
they can see if someone has too much gold, or there will be a threshold that gets set off if someone all of a sudden just gets like 5 million gold, and
Right.
everyone's like they can watch in real time and see, oh hey, what's that guy doing, like how's he doing that, because they've set the game up where they can track. I think they can track every gold coin as it goes along. Like there's
Right.
an audit for that. So they actually know their game. Dude, New World, a big problem with all of the duping and stuff is they didn't have any of that. And it's
Right.
super common for MMOs not to. That's why you have things like rollbacks, right? Where
Right.
the entire server gets rolled back at X number of days, hours, whatever, up until they knew that the time of the exploit wasn't being as badly exploited as it was. So like the way that Intrepid has their data gathering apparatus and they're turning that into programming to make it a live interactive world is bananas. And then how that extrapolates to questing, because the commissions live stream, I was every live stream we get, I go through a phase, right? It's like, oh hey, sweet, oh this topic, I'm gonna be so excited. And then my expectations go up, and then I'm like, wait, no, temper those expectations down a little bit, get more
Right.
real. And then when we're watching the live stream, I'm always like, wait, this isn't anything of what I wanted. But then I watch it over again, and it's like finding a Christmas present behind the tree
Right.
that this morning. It's like, oh, look at this, and then you
Right.
find another Christmas present back there, and the ones that you find back there are better than what you were hoping for, anyways.
Right.
So like the Mayor live stream is, or sorry, the Node live stream, the Village Node live stream is the best example of that. Everyone. A lot of people were disappointed with it because we didn't get to see a node level. We didn't get to see
Right.
everything that everyone was expecting. But
Right.
bro, we learned about so many different functions of a node, and then we learned about commodities. We learned about node commodities and how,
Right.
in order to level, nodes have to send each other commodities. Like the one I always made. I always use my made up example is the pumpkin pie spice from Burnsville, or the
Right.
mag- from Burnsville. Like
Right.
uh, how we learned about that entire system just from a few little snippets in that live stream. So,
Right.
dude, their live streams always do that. But this most recent one, it was showing us their questing system and how it connects to the all-seeing eye. And that was
Right.
my main takeaway from that live stream. I was like, holy crap, here's another system that connects into their data gathering apparatus, and
Right.
the foundation that they have set for their game to now hook the different systems into is so solid. A lot of people are like, "Oh, they're using console commands now." No, they're not. We've seen it in action. We've seen this all-seeing eye in action with the events system, like this,
Right.
and a couple other times too. But like this stuff is functional and it's setting up to be huge.
Right. No, I completely agree with you, and I think there is, and this is why I give them so much leeway to just let them cook. You know what I mean? Because, dude,
Right.
have you ever? And just a simple question, Bert. Have you ever been a dungeon master in a D&D campaign?
No, but I would like to.
Okay, it's a lot. It's
Yeah.
I literally tried back in high school because I was actually in about a 5-year D&D campaign. One of my
Cool.
really good friends was a dungeon master, and I did not realize of how much work it is to be a dungeon master because you talk about data. Well, the same thing goes with the dungeon master, right? You have to be aware of what your people are going to do and what they might do because you need to like have other possibilities set up. And there's a lot of people that are really good to where they can be very spontaneous as a dungeon master, but that spontaneity could also be kind of like a double-edged sword a little bit because it's like you feel like you really don't have anything prepared because it's always something spontaneous that happens that kind of
Sure.
takes you away from the story. So it's a lot, dude. And again,
Some
and
human
again,
choice.
yeah, and in a game like Ashes, where it's supposed to almost simulate like like a rolling live functional D&D campaign,
Right.
very similar to Baldur's Gate 3, but Baldur's Gate 3 is very much like in a sandbox, right? Like it's like yes, you can play around, but there's only so much of that you can do, right? And there's not really other people, right? Other outside forces that can influence any decisions that you made. Ashes does. So that not
That's another dimension.
yeah, it's literally going into like a fourth dimension at that point, right? So I
Yeah.
I I myself, like, I'm just like, dude, I want them to just really figure all this stuff out because golly, dude, this could be so revolutionary from a gaming perspective that Intrepid could literally be put in the books for doing something this innovative, right? Because it is something
Right.
very innovative where again, when have you ever seen a game where every single server, like outside of a survival game, most MMOs, every server is identical, right? Every server.
Yeah.
Ashes isn't going to have that. You know what I mean? And that's
Right.
another layer, another dimension. Um, so if this a world manager can keep all this data and then learn and even adapt to like,
Right.
oh, this is what the players are trying to do. Let me kind of give them a reality check a little bit, right? Like, let's explode this volcano to like throw them all off, like, right? Like, I think that's like going to be such a cool, like a cool factor from a gameplay point of view, from a gamer, but also from a developing standpoint, like how fun. Because again, you can have a crap ton of fun as a dungeon master, like in a D&D campaign,
Yeah.
because you're literally God, right? And so, like Intrepid in this same sense is God in Ashes of Creation. They can literally do whatever it is they want to do, and I think usually a lot of these AAA studios are never in the minds of the gamer. They're in the minds of
Yeah.
treadmills. How can we keep them playing longer? The data for a AAA studio, I think, is very different than the data that Intrepid is trying to gather because they're trying to gather it, and at least Intrepid is trying to gather in ways that elongate fun, elongate an experience. And then you have other developers that are gaining data to, well, how long is this treadmill needing to be before they burn out and we need to put them on another treadmill, right? Like it always
Well,
feels like
it's
a,
death by committee, right? Because
yeah,
it's they're looking at the
100%.
wrong metrics. That's
Yes.
you have to when you're doing an experiment, it always starts with a question. You have to ask the right question. The
Right.
problem is their shareholders have told them what question they need to ask, what question is actually important.
Right.
And so like player retention obviously
Acquisition.
is important. So the like keeping people on a treadmill is such a corporate mindset of, oh, that's what
Right.
these gamers like to do. We don't understand gamers. We're not gamers ourselves, but we think that they're looking for a system, a mouse wheel just to run in, and that's it. But the metrics that they're then forcing the developers to build a game towards are faulty, and that's we've seen that with World of Warcraft. That is the best example because that has been a death by MBAs. I mean, they MBA'd the fun out of the game
Right.
because their metrics that they were aiming for were not the right metrics for fun.
Right.
Steven is he's like, hey, I mean, let's be honest. Steven wants to make money from this game. If
Oh, absolutely.
he's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart, but he understands the most important metric is people who are subscribing, and more people. And as a gamer, he understands more people will subscribe if the game is fun. But the problem is that like these AAA studios, they don't have the vision for that, and their shareholders aren't gamers, so they have no idea, and that's what we're running into now.
Yeah. Well, I think honestly, there's a lot of developers that are gamers for these AAA studios, but they're being shackled by their
Yep,
creativity from their managers, their higher ups, right?
sure.
And again, you know, a lot of the developers that I talk to that are friends of mine, they're always under the gun. You know what I mean? Like, you know,
Yeah,
there's never enough time in the day to do the things you want to do. You know, some people have some really cool ideas, but they have a time limit as to like when that idea can be executed. And I think a lot of the times, like, it feels very suffocating and very frustrating to be a part of the corporate machine. But at the end of the day, that's the job that you signed up to do, right? So a lot of times they try to make the best of a worst case situation. And I think that's so fucking
yeah.
sad, dude. Like, and I understand people need to make a career, they need to put food on the table and stuff like that. But it's like, most of these people, I can see why they quit these, you know, large studios, because it's just like, at the end of the day, like, you want to be known for doing something good in this game, and not
Yep.
just some slave worker that built this pyramid that you're not even going to get any kind of credit for anyway. Like, you know what I mean? And it's very much like
Yeah.
like a slave trade after that, because again, like, you look at Forspoken, you look at like Starfield, you look at like even retail WoW, and it's like there's just so much stifling of creativity, where as a gamer, we just get so shut off and so turned off to those games now, where even if they manage to start fixing and to start actually putting player stuff first, it's already too late. Like we talked in the pre-show about New World, and how I believe New World is a way better game now than it was in the beginning, but people don't care. Like, literally, people don't care. They cared in the beginning, they don't care much now, right?
Dude, I think they would care if there were actual end game loops, but it's there aren't. There are
Right.
0 new loops. In fact, you
Wow.
had the
That's sad, dude.
sandworm trial, right? Which that was supposed to be kind of like their raid, the only raid type thing that they have, but the reward from it right now is irrelevant.
Right.
Like the gear that you get from it is I think 625 or something when the gear score now is 700. So, I mean, yeah, there's so they spent forever developing this thing, and now it's irrelevant, and they haven't bothered to fix it. To my knowledge, I don't play right now, but it's been, I think about a week since I was talking to people about that, and yeah, it hasn't been fixed still with the reward being relevant. So you have another entire end game loop of doing raids that's irrelevant. So they
Right.
removed that out of their already very limited end game loops. And like Wizzy's pointing out, playing in the wars was, in my opinion, the only real loop, the only
Right.
actual loop at end game. Yeah, you could do the dungeons and stuff, but very few dungeons and not fantastic. They were okay, and those get kind of stale.
Right.
But the war system was great, but I mean, that only gets you so far. Having one end game system, which I'm editing season 2 of Bespoke, and one of the questions which I asked my boy here, Vlad Daddy, what does end game look like to you? What do you anticipate your end game loops to look like?
Right.
And I think that's going to be a really fun episode.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And I think a lot of people really want Endgame to start at level 1, right? Like, I think there's a lot of people that and again, maybe not everybody, but I think there's like this attraction of people are sick of just questing from 1 to the level before max. And then once you hit max, now all the endgame loops open up to you.
Sure.
You know,
Yeah.
it's like the only thing you can do is quest, right? And me particularly, I've never been much of a quest guy. Like, I do it because it's a means to an end, but I'd
Sure.
rather be doing something else, man. Because like after a while, the questing
Yeah.
just gets kind of very repetitive. It's not fun. It's boring. But the way I've always been really excited about Ashes is the fact that there's so many more loops at an earlier level that you can
Like what?
partake
What's an
in.
example that you're talking about?
Caravans,
Yeah.
naval potentially, um,
Sure.
religion, um, let me see what other examples. Gathering professions.
Yep.
What else? Be put on the spot. Like, but I mean, you catch my drift. I mean, it's just there's a lot of
Yeah.
other things that you could potentially be doing, and not even to mention the geopolitical nature of guilds, like you going and helping somebody that is dying due to, not saying griefing, but just like, hey, that this person wants your shit, and then I see that and I'm like, hey, let me go help this dude. Let me just be the hero for this person's day or whatever, and then that could spawn
Sure.
into this whole ordeal on the server. And it could initiate a guild war. It could be initiated by castle or node siege, because again, maybe this guild doesn't like that guild or whatever. Like, there's just so much to the interpersonal, but also the interconnectiveness, the tissue, that doesn't start at max level. It literally starts like at any level in this game. And I think that truly is an end game mentality that is literally rippled upon as you're leveled. And that to me is, I think, the most exciting feature of Ashes, because most games do not offer you end game progression loops before max level. Rarely
Right.
do they do,
And nothing meaningful, right?
Yes.
Nothing that has any kind of impact. Whereas a level 1 player has an impact on the world with the experience. They do a commission.
Right.
Boom. It can influence the weather. It can influence all different types of different events. And
Right.
then you increase the experience of your node. And as a level 1, you can help shape Vera, which is wild.
Yes. And again, like, I don't personally like to take it to just level 1, because there's only so much level 1's going to do. But I mean, level 7, level 16,
Yeah.
level 23. Like, again, look at it in any other MMO. When have you did anything meaningful at those levels? Never.
Right.
There's nothing
Yeah.
meaningful you've ever done, like, other than just
Yep.
hit the next level. Like, that's the meaning.
Yeah.
The whole meaning of you leveling is to hit the next level. Like, it's never really anything else. And I think Intrepid is really trying to look at that and zoom out, right? Like, they're literally like, okay, like, what can we do to this level and experience that makes it feel more meaningful outside of just earning experience? And
Yeah.
again, no pun intended, but they're trying to give you an experience, like, of how this world is going to be shaped, what events, what nodes you choose to level, people you're going to encounter. Like, everything is just going to be very lively. And I don't think we've really played a game to this extent, like, ever. You know what I mean? Like, I think, again, like,
Right.
I've played, certain D&D campaigns that felt very immersive, but again, nothing like in a video game where there's almost seeming like endless possibilities. And again, I think about that because I did a video on the whole commissions thing, right? And
Yeah.
the fact that they would probably have to make an upward of
Yeah. A lot.
like 2,000
Right?
plus
Yeah.
commissions per node, right? And again, this is assuming they do 25 unique commissions, which I don't know
Yeah.
if that's too much. I don't know if that's even too little, but I just said 25 as like, well, if you can accept 20, like, which I don't know. Like, what do you think about this, Burns? Like, do you think, well, let me break it down even more simply. Do you like dailies in an MMO? Are you a fan of dailies?
Not particularly.
Right. Okay. I am not a fan of dailies either. I think they especially when they're very valuable, right?
Yeah,
In World of
right.
Warcraft, the
Yeah.
more valuable a daily, the more forced you feel into that content, because if you don't do
Yep.
it, you're missing out. And
Exactly.
with commissions and how valuable they are and just providing experience to your node, and we don't even know what the rewards are to that. Like, I'm excluding the rewards off of the actual completing of the commission. I don't. If they're going to provide like a good chunk of experience, then you're going to have guild leaders, you're going to have officers literally make sure you get your 20 commissions done before you log off today, and
Right.
and completing 20 commissions a day every day, I think it's just going to burn people out. And I was suggesting to either do one or two things: make commissions either weekly, keep the 20 level cap, but make them weekly. Don't make them daily, because if you make them weekly, then as a developer, you're not going to run into having to create so much unique quests, because they're only going to be doing them once a week rather than once a day, because you're going to run
Aren't they half hourly right now?
I mean,
So that's the thing, because they're so frequent. I don't even consider them dailies, because they are one of a plethora of things you can do to gain experience.
right.
So I mean, crafting, any type of, like, there are so many different things you can do which will get you experience. You've heard Steven say that you don't just want to quest and grind mobs
Right.
to get to max level because then you'll be missing out on stuff. What he's talking about is missing out on the artisan class systems. So you want to be able to be doing artisan class stuff as you level. Maybe for some people, that's their main way that they gain experience to level. And so
Right.
I'm of the opinion that commissions are just one of a multitude of activities to do. I
Right.
don't even know if they're going to be like town boards. So back in the day with New World, yeah, go figure. New World wasn't scaled very well, and the town boards were so powerful. I leveled within the first few days. I
Right.
mean, of playing. I got to max level because I just crushed a bunch of town boards. Well, problem solved. I watched Seth Fear. He was one of my favorite YouTube creators, and he said, "Hey, yeah, you should try doing town boards." So I did a bunch of town boards, and
Right.
I'm not sure Ashes is going to be viewed like valuable dailies. I think it's going to be an introduction to side quests and story arcs and stuff, but it's going to be one of many different things you can do. And I don't think they're going to be. I don't think it's going to be capped. First of all, I don't. Did I miss something? I don't think I've seen any discussion of
No.
them from Intrepid being like, "Hey, you can only do 5 per day or something."
So I didn't hear anything of a cap. That's an assumption of mine, because when they said
Okay, got it.
you can keep 20 commissions in your journal, I just
Yeah,
assumed that 20 is probably like the max you can do like in a day. Because to me, I think it'd be uh, and again, this is all stuff that has to be tested, right? Like I'm willing to test it, but I would rather me personally have, if they are like a daily thing that you can do, instead of having to do 20, like you do 2. Like you make them even more valuable, but you can only do 2, maybe even 3 a day. So that way,
that makes some dailies then.
well, either way, like, because again, I have to play them in both kind of directions, right?
Sure.
See
Yeah,
what it's
yeah.
like as a weekly, but then if you want to make them something, because here's my biggest gripe. If they're valuable, I don't want my 2 hours or 3 hours, because again, I'm a dad, I have 3 wives, I have 4 jobs, I have, 7 children. So
Yeah, right.
when I log in to play my 2 or 3 hours a day, I don't want to just be playing commissions every day because they're valuable. Like
Sure.
they're the things that I
Yeah.
want to do. So my main gripe is, when I play, I want to do a variety of different things and not feeling like I have to do this thing
Yeah.
that's very powerful with very powerful rewards all the time. So
I get it. So, bro, what you want is actually them to be scaled down. Then you don't want them to be
right.
super like you are losing if you're not doing them. You want them to be scaled down to a level where you can do other stuff and not feel like you're getting passed up by everyone else.
Right.
Which is a balance thing, which is an alpha 2 thing, which,
Right.
I can imagine the videos already that you're gonna publish about it. I'm gonna watch, like, and comment on every one of them.
Well, it's just, again, I feel like, there's a lot of things in Ashes. We talked about the 26 different systems that are in Ashes of Creation.
Yeah,
And I just think being succumbed to one, right? Like
yeah,
basically bowing down to the power of this one system for the
yep.
entire cycle of your play, your 2 hours. It would just be very annoying, because it's like, and then if you decide not to do those commissions and go do something else and you have fun doing those other things, and then it's like, hey, did you do your commissions for the day? Like, because our guild's keeping track of like all the people that are doing
Yeah.
their commissions and stuff. Like, I mean, and again, it's not, that's also kind of, your guild's fault, or, maybe you should find another guild if that's what they're
Sure.
doing or whatever. But I do want there to be a balance, right? Like, I do want Intrepid.
Yes.
I don't want them to make commissions meaningless, right? And just, oh, it's the system that
Right.
you can just do for shits and giggles. Like, I do want them to have a value, but I feel like they potentially may have too much value. And again, maybe that's subjective. Maybe they're not, maybe they don't have that much value at all. I don't know. I'm not playing
Sure.
Ashes right now. So I can only go by what I saw. But even if I could look at the data like on the wiki and see what a commission actually does for you in the node, like, to me, they just seem very powerful, right? And again, we'll have to go and see. Maybe it's actually going to be very intuitive with other systems, so that we are not always just feeling like you're doing commissions. Like, you're basically completing commissions as you're doing other things, right? So as an example,
Mm.
if you can look at your commission board and then you want to go do some gathering, right? Like, you
Sure.
want, like, that's
And
the
you're gonna be in the region. You're like,
right.
I'll pick up a commission for Oaken Bay and
Absolutely.
Keep because I'm gonna be getting some moonstone there or whatever.
Right. And then you can look at your commission board and be like, is there any kind of gathering profession
Yeah, sure.
commissions, or is there anything that is near the place that I'm going to be heading off to, or anything like that, right? So you can kind of look at it in a killing two birds with one stone kind of approach. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's totally fine, right? Like, I guess I am just trying to speak out of what my worry is as a gamer, because in other games that I have played with very valuable dailies, I always felt very much like succumb to those dailies like every
Yeah,
day.
agreed.
And I feel like that's just bad. I don't,
Yeah,
because again, once they made them weeklies, people felt a lot better, and then they can actually feel like they can breathe and do other things, and then come back to dailies or come back to those weeklies later, right? If they want to complete those weeklies at the end of the week because they want to have their fun and do whatever they want to do, or if you want to be that player that just does one of those quests, like, a day for however long they want to do it, like they can portion it out how they want. You know what I mean? You can't really do that when in a single daily you have, if you're only going to play 2 hours that whole day, well, then you have to do them in that 2 hour stint. If not, then you missed
right.
out. You know what I mean? And I think that
Yeah.
mentality just feels really bad, is all I'm trying to say.
Yeah, and you know what? Ashes, so far that we know, there aren't dailies except
Sunny.
refining is
Sunny is in here.
refining is oh, is he? There we go. Uh, refining, I think, is kind of a daily. The way they have it set up, because it's going to take a certain amount of time to
Mhm.
do a refining. Some take an ore and making it into an ingot or something like that. And
Right.
there's a timer for how long that takes. So, to my knowledge, that's the only kind of daily that Ashes has in it right now. But I'm on the exact same page with you there. I am not a huge fan of dailies because it forces you into, hey, you need to do this for the day. Hey, did you check this box off yet? Did you do your chores for the day? Boring, no thanks.
Yeah.
I'm not here to do that. I'm here to be, in some fantasy world shooting fireballs. I'm not here to be
True.
sweeping the floors because I'm here to do chores.
No, I
That's
know.
dude, that is like corporate mindset. Hey, we need to get the players in every day because our metrics have shown if the players are in every day, they stay for longer term. Therefore, we need to do things that get them in here every day, like having really valuable dailies. And it's like,
Right.
nah, that's not fun. You guys aren't gamers. You don't know what you're talking about. And
Right.
then the poor devs that have to be forced to make that. It's like,
I
nah,
know.
I feel bad for those guys.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I think commissions on its surface, like it's a good solid system, right? I'm just trying to
Yeah.
express like the kind of concerns that I have with a system like this, and just seeing like what we can do to make it better, like in a better health kind of approach, right? Like, because I do want systems to provide a service and a value, but I don't want certain systems to
Yep.
provide too much value where you feel like, well, damn, I guess I just have to do this thing like every day, because if not, then I'm missing out, right? And even the profession
Yeah.
system can even feel this way too, because there's a lot of value in the profession system, especially if you can level it quickly to be that one on your server that can provide a certain service that other people can't, right?
Right.
So it is
Yep.
that kind of fear of missing out when it comes to certain things, right? But especially when it's such a gamey approach as like a daily quest hub or
Yeah.
anything like that, that's
Right.
that's when it feels very scummy. Feels very
Yeah,
scummy.
exactly. It's like, and from a lore perspective too. Here's another part of my pitch to replace Sunny in Lore Forged. Does it does
Dude.
it fit with the lore of the game to have dailies? Like, will the universe, will it come crumbling down? Will the gates open back up again if you don't complete this thing within 24 hours? Like, but that doesn't flow with any
Right.
kind of with any lore. That feels so gamey, and it removes it. It screws up your immersion. So yeah, I am with you there. They do have the phases of the story arcs, right?
Right.
How each chapter, there are 4 chapters. Each chapter, it sounds like they've only said it once, but it sounded like it's going to be a week.
Right.
Yeah, let me show Sunny how I'm going to fit in Lore Forge real quick. This is part one of my application to be Sunny's replacement in Lore Forge.
Oh my
Uh,
god, dude. Well, okay.
anyways, it's too gamey. I don't like the idea of uh
Dude, you look
of
like Joey
dailies,
Small,
because
dude.
exactly like what you're saying. There we go. Joey Swoll.
Dude, I know you're like,
Like
Joey Swoll's
half of
brother.
I weigh it's like his anemic brother.
Dude, whatever, dude. Okay, so
I weigh as much as one of Joey's legs.
I probably, dude. That guy's built like a brick, dude. He's insane.
I know another reason, like you're saying, dailies suck because it's immersion breaking and there's no lore. There's no lore reason for it.
Right. So we were talking yesterday a little bit about expansions, and I know this may be a little bit too forward thinking and stuff like that, but I think it's a very interesting topic because I was kind of telling you as to like my kind of pitch for an expansion for Ashes. Because
Oh yeah, I like that idea.
because I feel like a lot of times, especially retail MMORPGs, don't truly expand their game.
Right.
Most of them can expand their narrative, but the gameplay ultimately feels smaller in scope. And I think that is such a terrible expansion template to mimic or to copy pasta. And why can't you build upon foundational systems in your game? Like actually, like think of it as a house. Like what basically you're doing is you have a really good solid, 2-story, 3,500, 4,000 square foot house. And then you build some satellite house that looks like a shed, and you expect everybody to start living there now, even though there was a nice house built over here. Like, why can't you start building additions onto the house? Like, actually making the house bigger instead of putting some satellite house like over yonder and expecting all of your people in that house to go live there now. Like, it doesn't make sense. And I think
you really opened up my mind with this when you were talking about how they do that with their expansions. It's not actually increasing the size of the game effectually, it is decreasing the size of the game. And I was like, oh man, like that made so much more sense because the only relevant content is in that tiny little area. But dude, with Ash's foundation of nodes and the things that nodes bringing relevancy, like when a metro forms, that ZOI then becomes so much more relevant game content wise. Maybe there's the new dungeon or the new raid that opens up in that area, making that the sexy place to be, right? And so, I mean, at its core, it's so much different than WoW already.
Oh yeah, 100%. And the thing is that like, I know people are saying in chat right now that it's a shame that Steven went with the increased level cap route for expansions. I think they should rethink that personally, because they can still expand their narrative, right? Like in an expansion, like tell more story, but keep you the same level. Like, I honestly feel like this little hamster wheel of, oh, another 10 levels, oh, another 10 levels, like the expansion come out, let's increase another 10 levels. Like, you can still widen the foundational thing of abilities, talents.
So you're talking about offering vertical progression. Oh, sorry, horizontal instead of vertical progression, right?
Right, because then it makes, again, it still keeps you, of course, in this world. And once you reach the level cap, you don't really have to worry about leveling after that anymore. And again, it's not saying they have to stick with this permanently. Maybe there is an expansion where you'll level 10 levels, but it doesn't have to be the answer every single time, is what I'm saying.
Right.
It's like, okay, if you're going to decide to, because there's some expansions that release a new class, there's some expansions that don't release a new class. You don't have to keep doing that over and over. And I think it's the same way with the approach on certain MMO philosophy on either the vertical or horizontal approach to their progression. But in World of Warcraft, the way it used to be, like in classic WoW, was you literally progressed through the raid tiers, right? There was no catch-up gear. If you want to start raiding, you had to start doing dungeons to get ready for Molten Core. And then once you got ready for Molten Core, then you can start getting ready for Onyxia's Lair. And then you can do, you start prepping through some of the other raids or whatever, right? There was a natural progression. You can't just like, oh, we're on the patch of Onyxia. You can't just skip the other stuff. Like, you have, it's a progression you have to do. Yeah. And I feel like in retail, whatever patch you jump into, that's the patch that you play. Everything else is literally poof, it's gone. Irrelevant. You know what I mean? And I don't want Ashes to fall into this trap, right? Because I think it's more of a developmental trap. And honestly, for gamers, it doesn't really feel good. And they made this excuse before where, oh, we just want, if you invited your friend to play, we want them to play with you. Well, they
Yeah.
will. You know what I mean? And I'll
Right.
help them go through the same progression that I went through. And if I don't have time for it, hey, they'll make other friends. You know what I mean? Like that's the whole
Dude,
point
you
of an
like Mad Season Show, right?
Oh, 100%. Heck yeah.
Dude, I love that guy. And
Dude.
I feel so bad because I've watched a lot of his older videos, and as he was losing his love for WoW over time, it was
Right.
because, dude, Blizzard was like, "Hey, we need to squeeze every penny that we can out of our players right now, out of our customers,
Right.
because their earnings. Remember when they changed their metrics of success from like number of subscribers to overall amount of money that they were making, right?
Right.
They were losing subs, but they were making more money off of those subs that they had previously. The
Right.
problem is that's short-sighted because that only lasts so long. You
Right.
you just with your player base whittles down further and further, and it's like, man, if you just actually had a good game, then if you wanted to monetize a little bit on something else, it would be yeah. Anyways, so Mad Season Show, he makes these amazing videos just rebutting all of how Blizzard says, "Hey, yeah, we're doing this for exactly what you said. We're doing this because when your new players want to come in, then I feel like they have a dartboard at Blizzard, or they used to, where it would be like for new players, for casual players,
Hardcore
for
players.
people that don't have time, and then they're like, you know what? Here's a mechanic, and the dart is a mechanic to find some way to make more money, and they throw the dart at the dartboard and say, "Oh, it's for new players. We have this new function, and we're doing it for new players. Yay!" And
So true, dude.
it's so nonsensical. The reasons that they give for it, it's all just a bunch of BS. They white knight for a scarecrow,
Yeah.
and dude, when their scarecrow just gets eviscerated by people like Mad Season Show, nothing
True.
happens.
Yeah.
Nothing happens. Whereas Intrepid, they so far have shown that they listen to community and stuff. So that's going to be really interesting to see.
Yeah. I mean, dude, honestly, like, uh, you know, the fact that there's developers that even watch my stream,
That's wild.
it's
That's
it's
awesome.
it's fucking wild, dude. Like
Awesome.
I feel very privileged and just to be a part of this community. But it's one of those things that that's not the reason I support this company, right? But it's because of like all of their values, and they steadfast to those values. And again, there's so
Yep.
much feedback that honestly they have listened to. The one thing, I was talking to a buddy of mine because he still thinks that the combat needs work, and I agree with him. But I was
Sure.
telling him, I was like, dude, do you realize that the combat, especially melee combat, was in a whole other state in Alpha 1? And based on the Alpha 1 feedback, they just threw that combat template out the window and started over. What other company has done that? Most other companies justify their design or
Yeah.
basically
Yep.
say, well, guys, I understand that you like this,
Deal
but
with
this,
it.
yeah, basically deal with it. Like they're just trying to say
Yeah.
deal with it in a corporate speak kind of way.
Yeah. 100%.
And Intrepid was just like, ooh, like, well, this kind of sucks, but if we have to spend another year redesigning our combat to make our players happy, then that's exactly what we're gonna do. And I love that because again, at the end of the day, they want to play this game too. And I think, there's this approach that they are taking with not only just combat, but with all these other systems where it feels like it's so meticulous. It feels like a lot of love and passion that are going into these
Yeah.
systems. And especially when you hear these developers talking with Steven, like whether it's the commissions, whether it's the story arcs, whether it's professions, like you can just tell these guys are just so happy and passionate because they aren't stifled. We were talking earlier about AAA and how there's probably passionate people that work at Bethesda, Blizzard, AGS, but they're
What
stifled
does
by their.
Steven have in the designer room? I am not my ideas, or something like that,
Oh
right? Do
yeah,
you
like that
remember when he
quote.
talks about?
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Because you can tell they get passionate about it.
Oh yeah,
Exactly to your point. They
100%.
care. And what's so cool about it is they feel like they have enough of a say where they can help design these things and like actually affect change. And I talked about this in my Lord of the Rings MMO is Doomed video, where I think it would be smart. I I'm not a big business guy by any means, but giving your developers some kind of stake in the company, like you work X number of years here and you get paid some in some kind of stock or stock options or something like that,
Right.
because then they care, like, yeah, it's their livelihood, right? Like
Right.
we have jobs. I mean, I care about my job. I want to do as good as I can at my job. But dude, it gets long sometimes. And at the end of the day, I'm like, man, I just got to get through today. Like this is a long day. And bro, like everyone feels like that at their job at some point where it is just a job. But with developers of video games too, if it's like, hey, it's your job, but I mean, if this stuff pops off, then you're making bank. Like if
A hundred
Intrepid
percent.
stock goes
Oh,
it goes to the moon, then hey, sweet, you're making bank. And so I mean, it gives people another incentive to really care about their product. But I'm pretty sure they care a lot about their product already.
oh yeah. No, 100%. I mean, it's the thing that they are going to, produce to the world, you know what I mean? And kind of
Yeah,
show what they have, you know what I mean? And you play New World, right? So I know you played a
yeah,
healer most of the time, but did you ever play
yep,
melee? Did you ever play like a
yeah, yep,
great sword or any of the other stuff? Like,
yep.
how do you feel? Because we're about to see the fighter showcase this month in March. So, like, how do you feel when you look at the combat? Whether it was in the commissions video, like in the background, because you saw like, uh, I think it started with the V. I can't remember what his name was in the game, but you saw people basically playing
Mm.
the fighter. Like, how do you feel the progression of melee combat has been in Ashes?
Yeah, I think it looks great. I like their core design idea behind it. I'm gonna make a video on it soon, but the movement of like between feeling floaty and between feeling like your legs are cement, right?
Right.
How they're finding that middle ground, and then how the weapons affect the movement. So I'm working on a video for that. That'll probably be in a month. I mean, I've got so many freaking video ideas, but just not enough time, man.
I
Like
know,
I
like,
I hear some people say like, oh, there's nothing else to talk about. It's like, oh,
if
I wish I
only.
had just a little bit more time. But yeah, so I think they're making great strides with it. The melee weapon showcase, I think visually and just from an overall, just I watch it, I get the best feeling from that because it looks very good. And you can see at a subconscious level so many of their design decisions and how things move with the different weapons. And I'm gonna like make diagrams and go into that and make some animations on it because the system that they're using for it is fantastic. So wherever they're at right now, I think it's fine, but they've built on such a solid foundation with their general idea for melee weapons and how they fight. I mean, essentially, it's action combat, right? Everyone's like, "Oh
Right.
no, this is a tap target game." Sure, yes,
Yeah.
yes.
In certain aspects, yeah.
If we're talking about targeting, but if we're talking about hitting, like we're talking about affecting damage, ranged is tab, melee is action.
Yeah. And
Like I talked about that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
no, I was gonna say that's the approach they should take. Melee
Yeah.
feels so much better in an action sense than it does in tab. 100%.
Yeah.
Like, and oh, Ghost Rings, thank you so much for the follow. Thank you. Um, because every time, in WoW, when you're doing a world win, it's in an action combat kind of a sense, right? Because it'd feel very weird
Oh,
if
sure. It
you
cleaves.
yeah, it cleaves onto the other people.
Yeah.
And and a lot of times, but you still have to click on someone to get the majority of the damage on
Mm,
usually in tap target games. And actually you don't have to really worry about that, right? As long as you're
right.
pointing your sword in the right direction, you're good, right? So there
Yeah.
really isn't the worry of like locking onto your target or anything like that. As long as you're mailing, as long as you're near your target, you're good. And I think that feels good. But I think,
Yeah.
especially we can come to an agreement here because you used to heal in New World. Healing action, I'm sorry, bro, it's garbage. Like it is the most garbage thing ever. Like, and I
So, bro, Ashes has some action healing.
no, I'm saying total action. Not
Sure.
like
Oh, yeah, yeah.
because again, there are abilities that are going to be done in an action sense, but there's going to be
Mhm.
abilities where you have to lock onto your target, right? So you have a
Yeah.
mixture. I think with any classes, right? Like there's always this kind of hybrid approach. And this is when Steven keeps saying that, like I like that. I like that there's going to be certain abilities that are going to be action. There's certain abilities that you're going to have to
Yeah.
lock onto your target for. And I think as
So,
an
real quick, New World was split. It was bad healers did all action. And
Mm,
the best of the best ran a double single target plus sacred ground, because
okay.
like the single target you had to tab, and eventually they added a mechanic where you could lock your target to you could keybind your target, which was
Okay.
game changer. And I
Oh,
really
nice. Okay.
really hope they have that in Ashes, and I'm sure they will, because it is so helpful, especially with an 8-man group. I mean,
Right.
you're gonna have an MMO mouse, right? And like, generally have 12 buttons on them, and
Right.
you're gonna have to bind 7 of them to your, or yeah, maybe less depending on who you don't like in your group. But you're gonna have to like bind them to your group mates, and for your action, oh sorry, for your tab specific heals. And I
Right.
think that increases the skill gap of healers a lot.
Oh yeah. No, 100%. I mean, there's like Light of
But like
Dawn.
you're saying, I like the mix.
Yeah, there's like Light of Dawn that's an action based approach in World of
Mm,
Warcraft, right? There's no need to lock onto anybody. It's a cone
sure.
directional. And then
Right.
there's also like the more smart heals, right? So you have like um fuck, I'm trying to think of this monk ability. It was a healing ability. This effervescence? No, it's probably not effervescence. Anyway,
I
there's
didn't
like
play after monks were introduced.
yeah, Mist of Pandaria was I think it was a good expansion. There was a lot of pains in that particular. Dailies was actually one of them. In the very beginning of Mists of Pandaria, the dailies were way too powerful, and people felt very much handcuffed by doing them every day, and it burned a lot of people
Okay.
out. And then they moved them to being weeklies, and that's when people are like, "Oh, thank God!" You know what I mean? So that
Right.
was the example that I was giving. But yeah, no, I think when it comes to the action and or just the whole combat approach, right? Because I think there's a lot of stark differences in what people think is good combat, right? Because they have their
Sure.
favorite game,
Yeah.
whether it's like BDO,
Right.
World of Warcraft, Final Fantasy 14, Guild Wars
BDO
2.
does a good job with their combat, man. Like I
Yeah.
can't. BDO has many faults, but their combat, like a lot of people, really enjoy it.
Yeah, no. And speaking of BDO, there was a guy that I reacted to, Nico Tulo. He was
Oh yeah, yeah.
the guy
That's
that
great.
yeah, and I'm actually going to be doing a 1v1 this coming weekend with him.
Oh, cool,
So
man.
we finally got a date and time. So we're going to do it this weekend. We're still hammering out like exactly when, but
Yeah.
and we actually might do it live. It'll be maybe in the early morning on Saturday or
Because
Sunday.
he's not stay. Is he in the UK or is somewhere in Europe?
Yeah, he's in UK, I think
Okay.
somewhere around there.
Yeah.
It's like a 9 hour difference, or no, 6 hour
Okay.
difference. Sorry,
Well,
six
that's
hour
rough.
6 hour
Okay.
difference.
All right.
So not too
Cool.
bad, but you know, it'll be an interesting conversation because I think again, there's a lot of people that as soon as anybody starts talking bad about Ashes, now
Yeah.
I think he was a little misinformed with some of his opinions, but overall, I don't think he really said anything terrible. You know what I mean? And again,
Sure.
I think it's hearing these kinds of people out to understand what the average person thinks on our
Agreed.
game. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I think that kind of public perception is going to be good. And don't get
Right.
me wrong, misconceptions are going to happen a lot in this game,
Yeah.
especially in Alpha
Yeah.
2. So if you're getting mad for this person for saying something that they didn't fully understand, well, get ready, folks, because in Alpha 2, you're going to have the floodgates open up with a bunch of people misconstruing systems or implying systems, thinking this is how a system works when it really doesn't work that way. It's going to happen more and more and more because again,
That's a great point, man.
you can't
Do you
expect
do you think
everybody.
people with their 200, 300,000 subs, I mean,
Right.
they're going to come into the Ashes space, and do you think they're gonna be right all the time? I mean,
No,
uh, they probably don't know much about the game right now, and just learning it just like that, this game is so freaking complex.
it is.
Yeah, I think they're gonna be wrong a lot.
Again, and there's many people that even play Path of Exile for like the first time, and the amount of misconceptions they have, you know what I mean? And you have their chat constantly trying to correct them. But again, it's
Right.
such a huge game. You just can't expect somebody just to and take this entire knowledge base of the wiki and just, oh, well, you should have just learned it, bro. Like, it's like, no, like, again, people are going to have opinions
Yeah.
about certain systems, certain things, and they're not going to research. They're not. And again, you can look at that as just a misinformed take. Cool. You know what I mean? But I think there's a lot of people that get so radically upset or like start hating on this person for saying something that wasn't true. And it's like, dude, it's gonna happen. Like it literally, it's going to happen so much more, especially when Ashes becomes in the spotlight, because right now it's not in the
That's the point.
spotlight. You know what I mean? It's basically still cooking. It's in the oven. But once Alpha 2 comes out, boy, howdy. You're going to start seeing the variety YouTuber up the yin yang with videos and how Ashes of Creation is trash, or Ashes of Creation isn't the MMO that you think it is, and it's just gonna be misinformed take after misinformed take. And again, like I'm expecting it, because again, this game is so big, there's so many avenues to be misinformed in, and you just can't expect someone to go into the wiki and do their research for a whole month before they make a video, because that's what everyone in the community expects. Like, oh, you should have done your research, bro. You should have done your research. And it's just like, dude, no one's gonna do their research. Like, I'm sorry, like, unless they're just super passionate, unless they actually like, oh my god, like this game is the game I've been looking for, and then they go in the wiki or they start like slowly learning. But even myself, like, I was misinformed with many systems when I got started, because there's just so much to learn. And even now, like, it's crazy. It's absolute crazy talk.
And that's one of the reasons why like scripting takes forever, because you have to make sure with all these interconnected systems that you're not leading people astray, that you're actually saying the right thing, which is tough, man. But dude, with the upcoming fighter live stream, what things are you looking for with the combat to be like, hey, this is looking better, this is looking worse?
Two things for me specifically: sound and animations.
Oh, interesting.
So,
okay, what with the sound?
Sound to me is so important when it comes to combat. It is probably the thing that I felt like wasn't an important thing, but when certain, especially when it comes to melee, certain crunch sounds, or certain, like, just sound can just provide you that thing that just works really good. Metal Gear Rising.
Can I tell you a quick story with that? So as a
sure.
healer, I had light armor, low HP, because I was trying to max my heals, right? And so I had my dodge button on my mouse. So I would it was right on my thumb. So when I would hear, because gravity well is the one that will suck you in, and it's like, if you're a healer and you're stuck in a grav well, high likelihood that you're going to die. So I would hear, because the beginning sound effect for that is the axe scraping against the dirt. And I would hear that axe scraping against the dirt, and my thumb would start to twitch. Like to dodge, to get ready to dodge out of it. And so, bro, that is such a good point. Hadn't even thought about that, but I'm sorry, I interrupted. Please continue.
No, I mean, it's sound is just, and again, that's one of the strengths New World has. Sound design is just amazing in that game. But
skill gap, like sound can be a big skill gap.
Oh yeah. And it may be too early, right? Because again, it's still alpha, right? I don't expect the sound team to be like all in this like final preparations of like final design for sound or whatever. But I've always been very intrigued by sound. Lost Ark does sound very well when it comes to melee combat. I just want to bring up the thing of Metal Gear Rising, because Metal Gear Rising with Raiden, there are certain sound effects for crits that are juicier than the regular hits. So when you crit, it's like when you hear that sound, like, ooh, I just crit right now. Like, it's so satisfying. It's a very satisfying sound approach. You know what I mean? That it's like you can literally be just fighting a bunch of mobs and you just hear like, a gut punch, right? Or like whatever sound abilities or whatever abilities have, certain sound effects. And that sound effect can be a regular sound, or it can be an heightened sound depending on a crit or whatever like that. And I just think, again, like if there was a company that could ever do something like that, it would be Intrepid. But, sound design I want to see, but also animations, right? Because I think animations has come a long way since Alpha 1, from looking less floaty, more meaty, and just also seeing like how the player characters look while wielding certain weapons, whether it's, I really want to see 2 one-handers. I know we keep seeing these large 2-handed weapons, but I want to hear like, or I want to not hear
the pole arm.
I want to see two one-handed swords, like
one-handed. Got
like dual wielding one-handed swords, or even a sword and shield, just like multiple weapon types,
Yeah.
right? Because again, weapon master is the fighter, right? That's one of the archetypes.
Right.
So I want to see him wielding multiple kinds of weapons and seeing like how it feels to wield like a polearm compared to a two-handed axe, compared to a two-handed sword, compared to two one-handed swords. You know what I mean? And just kind of
Yeah.
seeing that approach as to like how far the animations have gotten, how meaty are these sound effects, because I think again, sometimes you don't even have to mess with the animation sounds, I'm sorry, you don't even have to mess with the animations if the sounds are good, because you can have a generic sound for a sword whip and it's like, oh, it's very floaty. It's very floaty. The move's very floaty. But then you cannot change the animation at all and add a really like guttural, like sound effect to the sword, and those same people will be like, oh, it's perfect now. It's perfect. And you didn't change anything animation wise. It's just the sound added that weight that people wanted. And so I think again, sound can play such a huge role in their combat design as well. Maybe not so much for like casters, right? But I still think, having a really cool cast sound is awesome, and having like, like a kind of like a singed sound effect whenever it hits, like a fireball hits somebody or something like that. Like, like stuff like that, but ultimately the fighter, the one thing I really want to see is this momentum mechanic, because Steven talked about it as like the juggernaut from X-Men, and I'm like, what is this? Like, I want to see this so bad. So that's probably like the main thing that I really want to see.
Dude, one thing that I've liked by watching the mage is I like with the wand that he uses, I like seeing the wand light attack animations, because he whips them around like he's from Harry Potter, right? Which is so fun to see. And then you start being like, I wonder which Harry Potter character they modeled these after, right? Was this from Sirius Black, like, or is this more of a Lupin type, like how he whips the wand around? Because there is a very specific style that he whips the wand around with, and that is satisfying to watch, and I think it's going to feel very satisfying to play too.
Oh yeah, no, 100%. I mean, so as far as like classes go, because I know you played a healer in New World, is cleric going to be the main class that you're probably going to gravitate to, or maybe try out first? Or is there any other classes that interest you as far as the lineup goes for the 8 archetypes?
Yeah, probably. I'll probably do cleric at first, and then fighter, and then rogue is what I'm thinking. And my guess is that I end up doing cleric fighter at first. Is the I can't remember the name. Paladin. Is that a paladin, or is that I think that might be a Templar. I can't remember.
Right.
Anyway, so I'll probably do that for a while, and then probably switch to high priest, where you're cleric, because in order to min max for large scale battles, you kind of have to min max stuff. So that's my guess of where that goes. But man, I was impressed with the cleric build. Do you remember that Vlhadus video? Sorry, the Zillion video. That Zillion did, where like Zillion, he talked about all the different types of healers you could make with the healing class, and then he removed it because it didn't get enough views.
Yeah, I did. He shouldn't have removed it.
Bro, I was about to make a video like that too, but I was gonna do it way more tongue in cheek.
Right.
Well, welcome to the first build guide. Something really stupid like that. But they're really leaning heavily into the melee, like frontline healer build. When you look at all of the different abilities that they have, and like so many proximity based ones, and I think there are going to be a lot of melee frontline cleric viable builds, and I really want to find ways to make that work, because I'm a little tired of the healer that has to wear cloth and has to hang out in the back or in a bush healing from a bush. I like the idea of a healer being able to be up in front, but I mean, obviously at the cost of not putting out as many heal numbers, but still I like how they're leaning in that direction.
Yeah, no, me too. And
How about
like,
you? What class you gonna play?
Oh, bro, I don't even know. I'm an alcoholic. Like I play everything. Like I love everything. You know what I mean? And I haven't really seen a class yet that like truly like gets my rocks going. You know what I mean? Maybe the ranger. I think ranger's always been a special thing for me, because hunter was a class I played in WoW. Like that was the first max level character I ever had in WoW. I raided for almost 9 years as a hunter. So, ranger, just, I have a special place for like bow and arrows and like, that kind of a fantasy approach and stuff. Pets, I don't really, the pet AI always bothered me in WoW. It took them a long time for the pet AI to actually get good. So having no pet actually is like a breath of fresh air to me. But actually we're already like over an hour. I couldn't believe we're actually an hour and 6 minutes. So before we end the episode, now guys, we're gonna do an after show. Me and Burns will be talking here, answering some chat questions and interacting with you guys way more. I appreciate all you guys in here just going away. I'm looking at all the chat right now. I'm sorry if we're not totally like specifically doing that, but of course we'll do that in the after show. Burns, before we get off, I do have one final question for you. Now, because I feel like, there's certain content creators that, say that there's too much praise, right, towards this game, and it'd be bad if we were just these yes men to Intrepid. So as a content creator, is there any systems or any design philosophy that you are nervous or even, dare I say, worried about?
Yes. So one very specific one. I hope Rive is still in the chat. So I like large scale PvP, and that's one of the main reasons why I'm attracted to Ashes, is because it's setting up to have very good large scale PvP. But so right now there's node sieges and there are castle sieges, right? So a node siege to take down a node, right?
Right.
Those are, from what I've seen, from everything that's available, those are uncapped. As many people want to participate in a node siege can participate in a node siege.
Right.
So I think that's fine, but there needs to be some kind of capped large scale PvP that has consequence. And I think that should be the castle siege system. There have been conflicting statements. There's some stuff on the wiki that says, hey, you can't actually participate in a castle siege if you're not actually signed up. But then more recent than that reference, Steven said, oh, if you're walking by, you can see it and you can participate in it. And it's like, oh, that's really bad, because so castle sieges, right? Could be the highest level PvP in the game. You're going to have people doing builds specifically for castle sieges. You're going to have guilds existing for that. That is such a good end game loop. Also, it's a way that guilds could stack up against each other. So let's say Envious wants to hit your guild. You could say, hey, you have more players than us, but meet us on a level playing field, and we will take you to school every time. So there needs to be something like that, because if the highest value is zerging, is numbers, that sucks. There's no strategy, there's no gear, there's no you don't care about your gear progression, because what would make more sense? Like, hey, I can spend more time getting better gear, or I can spend more time recruiting, because hey, if I get 2 more people, that would be better than me having max level gear. So I'll just become a recruiter instead. That is terrible gameplay, and it is being set up right now. If they don't have castle sieges capped, and it doesn't have to be instanced per se, but I use capped and instanced almost interchangeably. So there needs to be a cap on the number of people that can participate, and I would prefer it to be instanced, because otherwise, bro, people are going to bring caravans. They're going to park them in front of the castle gates. They're going to use the repulsor blast. They're going to use heal wave. It's going to screw things up. So it is an easy change, and I think Intrepid really needs a capped large-scale PvP mode. And with the direction they're going right now, I am not hearing that in a positive direction. I'm hearing they're leaning more away from that, which I think is a big mistake.
Yeah. Honestly, like, I had this whole, and I think I talked to you a little bit about instance content. I think there should be, because there is instant content right now. There's like arenas that are going to be like 1v1, 3v3, 5v5, and a 20 free for all, like battle royale. And I think they should have 10 versus 10, 20 versus 20 instanced BGs. And people usually say, oh no, like, you can't do that because it'll take them out of the open world. Exactly. Because if they're not in the open world, that leaves that guild or those people vulnerable. which means you can take advantage of that if you know if they're doing instance
Sure.
content. And so
Yeah.
if a part of your guild is in that instance, they're like, oh, dude, all these people are from Envious. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of Envious people in this battleground. Oh, well, you know, Envious is in the Dunir Mountains or the Dunzik Mountains, and they're always like, you know, keeping charge of their crap. And you know, a big portion of them are doing instance content. Then you can go into that area and take their shit while they're doing instance content. And now when they get to that instance content, they're like, well, where's our shit? Like, oh my God. Like, you know, again, it's a risk versus reward. If they want to do instance
Sure.
content, they pay the price in the open world. You know what I mean? And again, it's not saying that you can make this instant content like 100, like 24/7 all the time. Maybe it's only during certain things that it opens up and now you can queue for it and you can, you know, participate in these certain like limited time PvP events. But I don't
Yeah.
mind that. I really don't, because there is a lot of value in the open world. I don't think it really truly takes anything away if you want to do. And again, I think for those people that want to just PvP, sometimes you'll go into the open world and not encounter any PvP because there's just no one really doing anything on that day. So as a PvPer, that's kind of underwhelming. You know what I mean? But if you want to go and partake in PvP in an instance way, and you know you can just log in, queue, zoom in, and do it, cool, you can do that. But again, there is a risk,
Right.
especially if like you have, you know, other guilds or other things you want to do. And again, it's not saying that you have to, as Intrepid needs to do a like an instance content, like I said, 24/7 all the time. You can have it to be available in these limited time ways.
Sure.
So you can
That's a
take
good point. Yeah.
that way you can take advantage of them during those time frames. And then again,
Yep.
there's a double-edged sword there because they know it's limited. If you're having all these people go into there, that means there's not a lot of people in the open world. So those people can
Right.
actually take advantage of certain situations they normally wouldn't be able to take advantage of
Or
because
do you remember the guild fortress system that they talked about and then scrapped? So
Guild
there was
Fortress.
it was like a guild would have a fortress that could potentially get sieged.
Right.
It was still theoretical and stuff when Steven was talking about it, but exactly what you're talking about could be something like that.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. Well, Burns, dude, I really, really, really appreciate you coming on and chatting and stuff like that. And
Thanks for
guys,
having me, bro.
oh, of
Always
course,
fun.
dude. Of course. Yeah, it's always great having a conversation with you, man. So we're going to continue this conversation, of course, you know, in our after show. Guys, if you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe for more content because Joey Swole said so. Do better.
Hey, mind your own business. Do better.
All right, guys. Again, we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace. All right, we're out.
Cool.
All right, guys. Chat, Penumbra, Ghost Rings, Beaver Pirate, Wizzy, Roar, Azillin, Ashes Noir. Thank you all so much for chatting and going in on stuff like that. Some of your stuff, some of your questions were actually really, really good. I know one of you guys, I think it was Mr. Valentine, who posted about their take on commissions. And again,
Oh,
like
yeah.
I think it's just one of those things where I just need to see it in practice, right? I can have my opinions now and think of like, okay, like where can certain things feel not so good from the player perspective, you know? Because again, I think a lot of repeatable content, I haven't seen a lot of people from MMOs when I talk about dailies and have this very high regard for them. Like, oh, dailies, I love dailies. I love doing them. The best thing in the
Where's Burr when you
world.
say that?
I know. I know. I think he said he was driving, so I mean, we'll
Okay,
see.
yeah.
But yeah, like I think it just comes down to, you know, how does it feel, right? Like how does it feel doing these things? Because I'll tell you this, dude, when I saw the commission stuff, it really put a smile on my face that the fact that these breadcrumbs, and you even mentioned it in your video, the fact that your sole objective was doing these commissions, but then you see a side quest, see this Minotaur like out in the middle of
Oh,
the
yeah,
road,
right.
and you're like, oh, like what's this? And then you go out and talk to them, and there's another quest, and then an event happens, and then because that event happened, there's this other NPC that's there because it started raining during the event, and then she showed up, and it's like, holy crap, you know what I mean? Like the whole chain of things that could happen to you is you get lost in. And it's been so long that I've actually gotten lost in an MMORPG game loop, and that just really brought a level of excitement to me because man, it feels so good if Intrepid could really knock that out of the park. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think they will, man. What I thought was really fascinating about your video when you were talking about the potential amount of commissions that they're going to have. Dude, they even said that at night during different seasons, all of those things will change the amount or change whatever commissions there are. And bro, they're handcrafting these stories and these quests and stuff.
Yeah.
So that part of the reason why I titled the video the way I did, this is why it's taking Ashes of Creation so long, is because they have to handcraft all of this stuff. I mean, my
Right.
guess is there's going to be so for example, let's say you have Miralith and you have Winstead, the two
Notes.
Riverlands nodes that we know about. My guess is that there's going to be generic Riverlands commissions, right? Go kill X number of wolves. Wolves inhabit the Riverlands, right? So
Right.
those are going to be broadly applicable for every Riverlands node. So boom, that knocks 5 off there, and then hey, pick this certain type of harvestable at night, and those are all going to be in the Riverlands, I assume. So hey, they have those ones in common too. So I think there is going to be some overlap between the nodes. I don't think every node is going to have a completely separate, bespoke set of commissions, right? I think there will be some overlap between the nodes with each commission.
Dude, I was watching the commissions and Steven said bespoke. I was like, oh, he said the
Did he?
thing. He
He
said the
said
thing.
bespoke.
I think he did. I was like,
I think
could
one
have
of the other
sworn.
guys said it. I think one
Oh
of the
no,
other guys.
you're right. You're right. It wasn't Steven. It was
Yeah.
it was one of the developers. But yeah,
Steven
like
hasn't said bespoke since
since the series launched.
since the series. I don't know if he's seen it or if he knows about
Oh,
it.
he definitely knows about it. He watched it. Of course he watched it. 100%. It was so
I've
good
seen
though.
some of my videos get shared. Like I can see, when you can look at the external sources, how your video is being shared on whatever external sources.
Right.
So some of mine have Slack on them,
Oh my god, are you serious?
and yeah, and I'm like,
Dude,
is it?
I would not be surprised if Corey was like watching it. It was like, I gotta share this to the rest of the devs. I was like, because it's so funny how certain like vernacular language like can just be
Yeah.
not addicting, but just like you kind of catch it, right? So you have like a certain boss or certain things that like you have a word around the office that people say a lot of the times. Yeah, it's like a culture thing, and it's just
Yeah.
so funny how like certain words that Steven says are now like other people are echoing those same vocabulary words.
Like how
It's so
remember they were
funny.
talking about diegetic and they say the word
Right.
iterate more than anyone I've ever heard.
Yeah. Well, again, I mean, they're
Very iterative
developers. Like,
process.
yeah, it's a very iterative process. You know what I mean? Like,
Very
I
iterative.
like how sometimes too, they try to make certain like words thinking that, oh, this word, it's not this word. It's actually better than this word. But then when they start describing it, it's like, but it's still that word.
but
like,
what?
like, like it's still like bonus damage, right? It's like, oh, well, it's not just
Yeah.
bonus damage. It's when, you take this buff onto you and then it becomes more powerful like over time. And then it's like bonus damage. Like, okay, like
Right.
it's not a
Right.
it's not a boogeyman word. Like you can just say
That
it's
was
like
pretty funny when Roar did that video. It was like, oh yeah, we know they like to try to use euphemisms and say things aren't,
right.
but no, this is what it is.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude, 100%. Oh my god. You see, Dr. Burns, as soon as he said bespoke in the last live stream, I couldn't shake your intro from my head.
That the Hungarian music started playing.
Oh my god, dude. Honestly, man, like I really love your intros for your videos, man. Like they're just so clever. Like, you know what I mean? Like you can tell, like, hell, we always talk about the creativity from Intrepid, man, but damn, some of your intros, dude, are just so creative. And especially like how, remember I was talking to you about thumbnails, right? And having a style. Dude,
Yeah,
you've
right.
nailed your style, dude. Like your
Thanks, man.
intros, they're just, I love how uniform and how the style is so consistent. It's awesome, dude. Like, I don't know. Like, I think you really took that to heart, man, because golly, man, your
I did.
videos have a style to them and it's so good. It's so damn good.
What was it Q? Q was saying he was like, bro, your thumbnails all of a sudden they got better. Like what happened? What'd you do? I was like, dude, I had a conversation with Vlhadus and he told me like a good friend will, when you have a piece of lettuce in your teeth, a good friend will tell you you have a piece of lettuce in your teeth. And
True.
Vlhadus said I had a big piece of lettuce on my channel and my thumbnails were really bad. And Q was like, yeah, Vlhadus has created a monster.
Well, no, I mean, look, like, let me see. Let me do this real quick. hold on real quick. So I know we're off. Oh, can I do this? I can't. Hold on. Let's go here. And then we're going to go to Ashes of Relation. So if you're watching the stream, so look at these thumbnails right here. Awesome thumbnails. Like, as very much a style. You can look at these thumbnails like, and again, you'll know like, wow, this is a Burns thumbnail, right? But if you go and look at these thumbnails, very different, you know, very, very different. You know what I mean? And again, I think especially with like some of the smaller text, like, you know, from my point of view, you can't really look at some of the stuff. It looks a little too busy. You don't, it doesn't have the same kind of flow to them. But then if you look at these other ones, they very much have like you can just immediately tell like what this video is about, like what's going on. And again, it's literally a night and day difference, dude.
If you look at the timing of that, exactly when it changed was when I did my 1v1.
Yeah, I know.
Because we talked, dude, so great about the Ashes space, man. I love this period of time right now, because I mean, all of these names in chat, I've seen all of these names before. I feel like I know these people. Like, we've got such a good community right now, and I really value this time. But the creators that we have in the space are so fun. Like, they're such like genuinely good people. And the fact that you were like, bro, let me help you as a friend. Let me tell you some things that will help you. Right. I mean, we hadn't talked before that, no. But it was so nice of you to do that, man. And so this is I think the football team reflects the football coach. I think the community reflects the project. It reflects Steven, I think. I mean, good people working on a solid project. I think it attracts a certain type of people, and I'm grateful for the community that we have right now. There's a lot of there's a lot of fun stuff here. Great people. Yourself, I mean, you exemplify that perfectly.
Oh, dude, thank you, man. I mean, honestly, like I have only done what other content creators have done for me. Like what I did for you, it's because it was done to me by others. You know what I mean? So it was like, sort of like
Dylan helps you early on, right?
Oh, dude, he still helps me. Like I'll still ask him, be like, hey, I'm gonna do a video, because he's the title guy. Like
he is.
I'm not even saying that I'm the thumbnail guy. I just I just know, like, hey, my thumbnails, you look at my freaking videos from like a year ago, very different thumbnails to them I'm making now. Like, I know I have to evolve, and I have to still keep evolving. I'm not saying that I've reached thumbnail pinnacle, but it's an ever evolving process, right? And I think
the mature content thumbnail of yours was probably my favorite one.
Oh,
yeah. I loved that thumbnail. That was so good. That was so good.
It's for me, it's like, again, I'm still learning. Like, I'm still trying to think of like, would I click on this video? You know what I mean? And again, it's all subjective too. That's the hard part about it, right? Is the fact that, like, you know, all art is subjective to that kind of sense. But no, honestly, like when I got here, dude, like I had so many content creators like help me in my journey and like give me like pointers of like, hey, try this out, try that out. Cause my videos were all scripted, because everyone said, go scripted, do scripted. And then when I felt very robotic and felt very like, man, how do I get better at saying, and I think because I honestly didn't know that you did scripted. Like I had a feeling, but a lot of times it feels like you're going from your gut. And all of my videos recently are all not scripted. I can just bring up a subject. You're finding
your groove with that really well.
Yeah, 100%. Theory Forge, dude, what's going on? Phantom, dude, another awesome content creator, dude. Like, you know, I have a lot of respect for Phantom as well. But yeah, it's just one of those things that like when I came into the scene, like there was just like Zillin, Tin Man, It's Fane, you know, who else? Like, I mean, Stiquino, whenever he came on, like every one of us like have all gotten help. And again, I think because of the kind of energy and passion Intrepid has cultivated, I think with us creators, like we are not saying we're not even imitating. I think a lot of us have the same passion, because why else would we be YouTubers for a game that hasn't even came out yet? Like, why? Like, you know what I mean? You have to do it out of passion. You can't just do it because you're just some run-of-the-mill YouTuber. Like, that's not what it is right now. Like, you know, like, so I think you have to be a special kind of crazy to be a
Yeah.
YouTuber in the Ashes space. And I personally think it's just one of those things that, you know, I want everyone to succeed, especially good people, man. And I always told you, dude, like when I watched your videos, I was like, this guy seems like a very genuine dude. And then when I talked to you, like, and we were just chilling, like outside the 1v1, we talked for almost an hour and 40 minutes. We talked for,
Oh yeah, I think we talked about 2 hours.
we talked
Yeah,
for,
Halloween night, man.
yeah, it was crazy, dude. And it was such a good time. And I was like, man, dude, and it always feels good to be solidified by like your assumption, right? So it's like when we and you talked and we were just like just shooting the shit and just talking about a whole bunch of stuff, I was like, oh man, this dude is genuine. And that's why I give you that feedback, because I always feel like if I feel like a sort of disingenuous from you, like, oh, you're trying to do this for clout, or you're trying to do this for some other, you know, shady reasoning, and I can't pinpoint it, like I'll have my like a hand towards you. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not saying I'm gonna like, you know, do anything, right? It's just like, oh, okay, like you're one of those people. But when I found out you were like, okay, you're actually like a genuine soul, I was like, let me give you some feedback then. Because it's like, then I could see
There's a certain amount of humility. Like,
right.
why would you as a creator not want to like learn from people who are doing it and doing it well already? You know,
Right.
like why would you ever be like, nah, I'm good. I'm good.
Right.
Like
Right.
I've learned so much from all you guys. It's been awesome. And
Right.
there are so many new creators who are coming on the scene now too, like Hidden Dagger in Peon. Like I was just
Right.
talking to him like messaging and stuff over the past week, and we were talking about stuff.
I gotta
Like
talk to that
I'm
dude.
trying to pay it forward, you know, like there
Right.
are, and you definitely are. You do a very good job with that. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's
I talked to Flanker on my most
oh
recent
yeah, that was great.
1v1. And again, like
I
I
think
always,
Thinker might be in chat.
I mean, he might be. I mean, he's like 9 hours ahead of time right now. He's in the future.
Yeah.
But for me, it's like I just like hearing other people's perspective, especially if they're trying to make content in the Ashes scene. Like I think I've also been more busy lately, so it's like I've seen certain people on the come up or like starting to make content for Ashes, and I'm like, it's always in my mind, I gotta reach out to this person. I gotta see if they want to be on a 1v1 and stuff like that. So like for me, I feel like, you know, I'm not saying responsible, but I want to just hear people's perspectives, because I think it's just about having a dialogue about this game. It's just so important for feedback for Intrepid, right? To hear as many voices as possible. And this is the
So
thing.
there is a creator who if I haven't spoken with. We've messaged, and they you can't disagree with this person. If you disagree with them, like this person loses their freaking mind and just goes off and like, dude, it is unfortunate that they are this way. But what's so great is having disagreements. Like, bro, if we think about like, yes, we're having some disagreements about things now on some things, but when the game actually comes out, there will be huge disagreements on things. And your platform, the way that you handle yourself and handle these conversations, you facilitate discussion about things that, I mean, truth will out, right? If someone has flawed logic and you're like, hey, let's talk about that. Like, you give people enough rope to hang themselves with. And then
Right.
people are like, oh, it was nice to hear his logic behind that idea. I heard it and I don't agree with it. I think that's the best way for these things to go. Like, you have to be able to talk and have normal conversations, because what's unique about this time right now is, yes, the Intrepid listens and we get to make maybe we get to move the needle a little bit on things, which is amazing, right? That feels
Right.
so good. But what comes with that is also your conversations and your impact that you're having on the game matters, which is so unique situation. But we got to be able to talk about it, just like what you were saying.
Yeah. Jalon. No, I think I think who Burns was talking about was Richie SH. He's probably the most negative Ashes of Creation content creator. I'm gonna say it. He's so negative, dude. Every video, I'm glad he hasn't made content, because it's like I needed a break from his toxicity. Like he's just no. I love Richie.
That in his green bedroom. Oh, I hate Richie in his green bedroom.
He's been trying to build his computer, like, his computer literally took a crap.
That's nice.
So I mean, I really hope that, you know, I think his parts came in. I don't know, maybe he's still setting up his stuff, but yeah, I know. I mean, there's content creators. I mean, you can take them or leave them. I mean, I feel like in a certain extent, certain content creators, whatever they're giving out is the community they're inheriting, right? So as an example, like with Narc, like I've heard people say that he is not happy, like, you know, and I say, well, you kind of did that to yourself. Like, you produced this kind of trollish, Discord persona, and so you attracted that audience. So if you hate dealing with your own community, I remember one time he literally went on this banning spree in his Twitch, just banning people. And I'm
Yeah.
like, well, dude, that's the cult of personality that you cultivated. Like how
Yeah.
you conduct yourself, how you go about things. Like, again, like I feel like it's all like in what you put out into the universe. If you're putting out this trollish mentality, don't be upset that you're going to invite trolls to come in. You know what I mean? So I
Right.
feel like that with even the most pessimistic or most negative sentimented people, it's like those people then wonder, well, why aren't I growing? Why is my community not growing? It's like, well, what are you doing? You know what I mean? Like, what are your takes of
Yeah.
becoming? And again, it's not saying that you have to be, because I think honestly being very positively toxic, right? Like where all you're doing is just praising and praising and praising. And again, you can look at things in a very objective way that isn't being harshly critical or name calling or a negative emotion. You can just say, hey, I don't like this because whenever I experience this thing, let's talk about dailies, right? Like I don't like dailies
Sure.
because whenever I
Right.
experience dailies in games, they don't feel good to me as a gamer, like as someone who's
Yeah.
playing like a game for a couple of hours. Like they just don't have that kind of a good feeling. I don't have to say like, oh, Intrepid would suck, that you guys suck if you guys put in dailies and ashes. Like it's like, no, like it's just, again, like I can leave my sentiment about it, but I don't have to be this, because again, I don't know if it's this sensationalism, especially because on Twitch, right? Like you have certain
Yeah.
content creators that try to say these things to get a viral moment, right? Or to get a rise, or to like, you know what I mean? It's the sensationalism of social media at this point, right? And I've never really succumb to any of those kinds of things, because honestly I don't care. Like I'm really happy. Like I have a nice house, I have an awesome wife, I have a great family. Like I don't need this approach of like having to portray, to have this persona online for strangers to be impressed by. Like that's why
Yeah.
I'm always just me. Like if I'm an, because I'm an idiot, like I'm not a smart dude, you know what I mean? I say a lot of dumb things all the time, and it's fine if I'm accountable for those dumb things. Hey, I'll say like, yeah, I did say that dumb thing. You know what I mean? And maybe I'll change my mind. Maybe I will like
Sure.
alter, because if I, every time I hear someone say something that I'm like you said, I mentioned expansions, you're like, wow, I never looked at it like that. Or hey, I didn't even think about it in that fashion. Like, I'm always willing to broaden my mind. You have other people though, that they can only broaden their mind if they are willing to broaden their mind. If another person tries to broaden their mind, they won't let them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so for me, I was just one of those people that, hey, I've always been willing to broaden my mind if someone brings me a better argument than my own. You know what I mean? But like I said, we live in this day and age of internet, and many people don't do that.
Bro, humility. Like that's
Right.
one thing that I look at for in all my friends. Like, are they like humble enough to acknowledging when you make a mistake? Like, yeah, that shows a lot of humility, or being willing to improve. I try to be humble with my stuff. With all of my videos, I've tried to improve at least one thing in every video, and just understanding, hey, my stuff is not the bee's knees. This is not the final product. I have
Right.
not arrived. I will never have arrived.
Right.
I'm always trying to fix and improve something, because
Right.
then yeah, you get better and you don't stagnate.
Right.
Uh,
And
but yeah,
I think a lot of people too, because I was talking to Roar about this, a lot of people that stagnate um is when they feel like they've arrived. Like a great example is Darth
yeah,
Microtransaction. He got very successful for playing Diablo 4,
yeah.
and
The,
and
the
basic
redhead guy, right?
yeah, he lives in Alaska.
Yeah,
And all he does now is just talking head videos.
yeah,
Like there's
right.
no there, and again, it's not saying that his older videos were all very super edited and stylized or whatever, but you can just tell now he doesn't need to really put much effort into it. You know what I mean? And I think a lot of
Right.
really big, this is why it's such a misnomer, and I even told you this, of like looking at very popular like 1 million subscriber people, because most of those people don't edit or don't put it really any passion in their videos. They'll just put up a talking head video because it's going to get two, 3, 4, or even 1 million views. And so, so they're putting as least effort into it as possible because they know they're going to get a massive return. You know what I mean? So when I asked you specifically, I said, hey, are you planning to do any kind of streaming? And you're like, nah, probably not. I'm just going to stick with YouTube. And I was like, hey, that's cool. You know what I mean? Because again, I think that that'll keep you, edging your sword, so to speak, when it comes to editing, when it comes to keeping your story stylized approach. And again, I think a lot of people like, dude, looking at Mad Season, like Mad Season's videos, oh my God, dude.
God, gosh,
They
I
are
love
his
those.
Pandora's Box series is just
Yes.
fucking next level. It's like
Yeah.
documentary style storytelling.
Yeah.
It is
It really
fucking
is. He's
good,
so
dude.
good. Mad
It's cr-
Season Show is his name. He's a former WoW player. Well, I guess he's back playing it now.
Let me see.
He's a self-loathing WoW player now. As most are who play WoW now.
Yeah, Mad Season.
Uh, but yeah, he has a very I've definitely taken a lot of inspiration from his content. That is for sure. That's a fancy way of me saying I've stolen his style.
Yeah, I mean it's
Oh,
really quite
Theory
crazy,
Forge, what up?
dude. Theory Forge, dude. Phantom, Diggs, Neurotoxin, dude. Thank you so much for the raid. I was actually gonna raid you guys. Like I was like, I think they're still going.
Uh,
I don't know. I kind of lost track of time because every time we and Birds are talking, it's like shit. It's like time dilation's a bitch. It's like you think it's been 5 minutes and it's like nope, it's been an hour. It's like damn it. Um, but no, like I just think it's a cool thing being a YouTuber, man. Like I do it just strictly off of the hobby part of it, right? It's just something to kind of keep my mind busy. But giving feedback to a company that's willing to actually listen is just it's so
yeah.
powerful, man. Like because again, I come from a game where that shit didn't happen. You know what I mean? And I think that's why it's very attractive to become a YouTuber for Ashes. Because it's like, dude, when do we have a company that actually listens to our feedback and actually watches these videos and dare even say watches live streams even of these people? Like, it's
Right.
crazy. You know what I mean? So
Dude, what do you think about the hype level over the past like over the past 6 months where it has been and then where it is now? What's your take on that right now?
So Ashes always ebbs and flows. You have certain
Mm.
months that create a kind of hype because Asmongold watches it and the whole stylized and real life graphic approach topic rears its ugly head, or maybe corruption or PvP servers rears its ugly head.
Sure.
So you have certain like highlighted topics that kind of go up and down. But I would say that I think the hype right now is low. And honestly, it needs to stay this way. And I know that means less attractive live streams, but I would rather have um the hype increase than the hype go through this roller coaster effect
Yeah.
kind of thing,
Constant
especially because of
undulation.
how close we are to Alpha 2 potentially, right? And so I would rather them save the more hardcore excitement live streams for like the summer, right? For, maybe May, June, July. And then August be like a banger, and then September we get into Alpha 2. So yeah, I think right now ebbs and flows is always the natural course of Ash's content. But it's kind of par for the course, right? Like I think sometimes even certain subjects will bring up a hype wave, but it's not really a hype wave. It's just the fact that the eyes are on Ashes because of a certain, like I said, a topical conversation, or maybe Lucky Ghost decides to make another video, right? Like it really just depends on what occurs. But
Dude, can
ultimately,
I
like
tell you the title? I think Lucky Ghost is he the guy who he said he's like finally a game that respects your time? Is that him?
no. So
Who
Lucky
is
Ghost
that?
was the guy that made a
Yeah,
video regarding
I
certain
hated that video. The Ash is playing
misconceptions
the game.
of PvP
Yeah.
and corruption and being able to be like a combatant, non-combatant, corrupted. There was just certain things, and then he had to edit the video afterwards.
Oh, did he really?
Yes, like so there
Oh, and
was.
Stoops. Stoops is one. Yeah. Anyways, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, yeah. Stoops is great. He's a Lost Art content
Yeah.
creator, and he used to be a
Yep.
WoW content creator back then. But thank God he moved. But yeah, like I think there's just certain YouTubers that again they have a misconception of the game, or they're putting an old system from another game and thinking Ashes is going to do the identical same system.
Right.
And most times that I talk to people, they don't even know about the wiki. So they are just listening to live streams and
Yeah.
interpreting what they think these systems are actually going to end up being. So most of them aren't even aware of the resource of the wiki or where to properly find information. So And again, you can't hold that against them. Like, again, if I see someone who does a bad take, it's like all I take it as is a bad take. Like they're just not informed about this particular
Sure.
topic. To have such a visceral response of hatred or thinking that because again, I think there is again that sensationalism that certain content creators try to take advantage of a certain community in a given situation to try to do a negative spin because it may benefit their game more to shit on this other game, right?
Yeah. Bro, a lot of people are scared right now. I said this on Voices of Era with Nice and Else. I
Mhm.
think people who are in MMOs right now, what's an MMO that has a rising player population right now? Nothing, right? Every MMO has a declining player population right now, and every MMO player who likes their game kind of and doesn't want people to leave, they're threatened by ashes. They are scared by ashes. Like it
Yeah.
is yeah, yeah. I might talk about that, Penumbra. They are scared that ashes is going to take their player population and it's gonna further put their game in the grave. And so a lot of people lash out because that's the reason why people lash out generally in the first place is because they're scared about something. And
Right.
so I think that's where a lot of these people come from. The most vitriol, the stupidest comments I've gotten are from current Guild Wars 2 players. Guild Wars 2, a great game, right? No issues with it.
What?
But like Guild Wars 2 players, for whatever reason, just have this insecurity about their game, which I can understand why. But like their game won't exist after Ashes comes out. Their game is toast.
And whose fault is that? It's
Yeah,
not it's
yeah,
not the gamer's fault. It's the
right.
developers. And
Yeah,
this is the problem with a lot of these AAA games is the fact and just like how some of these high-end YouTubers want to do the least amount of work for the most return profit. Like they have literally had their games on life support and thinking, well, we don't because again, there hasn't been really been competition. You know what I mean?
yeah,
Even
exactly,
even
exactly.
even with New World when it came out, it almost had 1 million players. Well, those 1 million players dispersed now into the games that they were previously playing because New World didn't make it. So there's
Right.
still no competition. You know what I mean? And
Yep.
I think if there was an actual competitor in the market, it would actually hopefully up the game of these certain developers that have been trying to get away with putting out the least amount of content, the least amount of game loops, and just bad content. Really, it's bad freaking
Yeah.
content, and I'm just sick of it. I know a lot of people in the MMO community is sick of it, and honestly, if Ashes does it, great. But if Ashes doesn't do it, there's going to be another MMO eventually that will do it. I know most people like
Yep.
to praise the right MMO, but I don't even know if that MMO is even going to happen at this point.
Right.
Like
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sure.
I have very like not saying I have any pessimistic view on it, but it's like after Ghostcrawler left, I haven't heard any good thing from the people that I know that are somewhat connected have anything good to say about the direction of that game or even if that direction has changed or whatever the case is. It's just the MMO genre is just
Penumbra
crazy.
says, "Are you sure it's not going to be the Lord of the Rings MMO?" I think I
Oh
saw a
god.
video about that. I can't remember though. Maybe. Who knows?
I mean, do you
you know,
honestly feel AGS could even turn their shit around? Like
so that's
realistically?
that's the thing. Like AGS, if I were I would want to be like a game systems engineer or something like that. If I were going to be a video game developer, I would quit AGS because I wouldn't want that on my resume. Yes, you're part of one bad game on your, you have one bad game on your resume. That's fine. But bro, you have New World and then you have the Lord of the Rings MMO on your resume. When the Lord of the Rings MMO flops because AGS didn't learn the right lessons. They're saying, "Hey, we're applying all the lessons that we learned and it's going to be so great." Bro, to this day, they still haven't learned the right lessons. They don't
Right.
understand what end game loops actually are because there are none in their game. There's one, it's the war system, and you can only do that so many times. So
Yeah.
they didn't actually learn how to make an MMO. They're just making an RPG that you play online.
Yeah.
It is not an MMO. So that game is going to crash and burn. if I were working at AGS Orange County, which is the studio that that made Amazon, and they are currently making the Lord of the Rings MMO, I would quit because that is going to be bad on your resume long term. If you want to get a job afterwards and people, because I'm not sure if you remember what the chat was like when Steven announced one of their like environment team came over from New World. The chat on Twitch blew up. Everyone was like, "Oh, that's bad. This is bad." And it's like, man, if chat's having that response, like, hey, you got to think about potential future employees too. They're going to want people from good projects. They're going to want winners. They're not going
Yeah.
to want people from failure after failure. And what's tough with New World right now too is it's the same studio who is supposed to be making content for New World. They are making the Lord of the Rings MMO concurrently. There's
Right.
so New World has very little content on the horizon. They delayed a recent content update, and it's like delayed in perpetuity because, dude, they're just working on the Lord of the Rings MMO without actually having understanding what it takes to make a good MMO.
Oh, and the Lord of the Rings MMO is built with Lumberyard.
Lumberyard.
Best engine ever, guys. It's gonna work. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be the best MMORPG ever, dude. Like the fact that they even learn, like the higher ups force them to use this shit engine, and the fact that they're still not gonna change it for Lord of the Rings just shows you how dumb they are. Like, and again, I'm not talking to the developers. I'm talking the management, the people that are truly pulling the strings.
Hartman.
Yes,
Yeah,
like
that are the VP of AGS.
Yeah, they again, like, no, Scylla, they did not fix Lumberyard. Like, like Lumberyard is still a huge pile of dog crap. Like, and I think again, like the fact that they didn't even go with Unity or Unreal at this point in time, it just again goes to show that they're completely unwilling to bend on certain financial principles because again, they wanted to make their engine because they own all the rights. They don't have to pay 20% or 15% to Unreal or Unity or whatever. Like that's why they did it. It's a financial thing for them. And
what, like Amazon doesn't have enough money, bro? The
Dude.
AGS yearly budget, 500 million. That's now granted that's for all of AGS, excluding Twitch. Which, bro, could you believe that Twitch isn't profitable? Like, they're not in the. They're not in the black. It blows my mind. Blows my freaking mind.
Yeah.
But So
it's one of those things that, like I said,
they have so much money. They should be able to just get the best stuff. But it's hubris, man. They're not humble about anything, and that's what a lot of my video was when I was just crapping on AGS because they made it so easy.
Yeah, and again, like there's just a lot of issues, and as much as I am not the biggest Lord of the Rings fan, right? Like I like Lord of the Rings. Like I think it's a great, but a lot of people like you, because again, I'm also not a huge Star Wars fan, right? Like I like Star Wars, but I'm not like I'm a Batman fanatic. Like Batman, I am a huge, like I know a lot of the lore. I've read a lot of the comics. Like I know Batman pretty freaking well, but like I can't imagine if someone was gonna make like a Batman MMO, with like the Bat family, and they decided to use Lumberyard, and then they also decided to like go into certain systems that are just stupid, like as far as an MMO game loop goes. And it's just like, as much as I love Batman, I wouldn't play it. As much as I'm a huge fan of it, of the property, like it's just going to be another dying MMO. You know what I mean? And so I feel like with the Lord of the Rings Online, people are going to freak out over the cinematics. They're going to make some epic cinematics for that game, for the trailers and everything like that. And it's going to fall flat.
Is the third age. They're doing the trilogy age. I was concerned that they were going to do like, their Rings of Power, which is the second age, which is, I mean, a lot of compelling storylines in there, but no one really knows them. And so they're going to do like the Rohirrim and like Gondor and all that stuff. And they've already said though that it's not going to be very lore accurate, which, bro, they're already setting things up for failure.
Dude, what if, like, let's just say, what if they're going to use the Rings of Power for their new direction Like what?
Oh,
What if? Like what would you say to that, Bird? Do you think, oh yeah, we're gonna be following a Rings of Power storyline? Like,
oh, that would be so terrible.
dude, could you
That show.
imagine?
So
Oh
the
god.
statistic was if you get people to start a show and then finish it, about 55 to 60% is good. You know, like
Right.
a Netflix, you start a Netflix original series and you go 55 to 60% who started it, finish it. That's good. It's not really good, but it's good.
Yeah.
Rings of Power, 37% finished it from who started it. Like just abysmal. And they didn't even have that many episodes. I think it's what, 8 episodes? I
Yeah.
don't know because I'm one of those
You didn't finish it?
63% who didn't finish because it's
Wow.
terrible. I mean,
Wow.
it is not Lord of the Rings. I didn't go as far as to say that in my video, but it is not Lord of the Rings. It is something else. One of the things that Peter Jackson said, he's like, because he directed the original trilogy, he's like,
Right.
we don't want to tell our story. We want to tell Tolkien's story. And
Right.
then you juxtapose that with the showrunners for Rings of Power, and they're like, "No, this is for a modern audience. We're doing all kinds of
Modern
new
audience.
the message."
Dude, do you watch The
So
Drinker? Do you watch
yes,
the? Oh,
yes.
dude, I
Have you
love.
noticed? When I say the meta, I say it in that word. I say
Yes,
the meta.
yeah. Dude, I love
That's
Drinker, man.
hilarious.
He's so good.
Drinker's so funny.
He's so good, dude. Honestly, like, and this is the thing too, right? Like, we live in this day and age. Like, I know I'm watching Asmongold about the whole baby situation, right?
Oh,
The
Sweet
whole
Baby Ink.
Sweet
Yeah.
Baby Ink thing. And dude, gamers just want to play a good game, dude. Like, and anytime you're trying to educate gamers with like your message, right? The message, you know what I mean? Like, I just don't think,
Right. We have another priority.
right, you know what I mean, other than making a good
Yeah.
game, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
And I think that's really the problem with modern day gaming. Like I said,
Bro,
like,
have you gotten a whiff of that at all from Intrepid?
oh dude, not at all, not at all.
Not a whiff, dude. They're in San Diego, which could. But like, I have gotten.
True.
It is pure meritocracy. All they care
Right.
about is the game, the product that they're making. They're not trying one side or the other. They're not sacrificing their product for the message.
Right. Yeah. And again, like, I feel like there's a lot of times when because I watch a lot of anime, right? The Japanese, they don't really get ridiculed for having like a gay character or like another racial character in being the main protagonist of that anime, because they prioritize storytelling over the message. You know what I mean? And I think there's sometimes that players, or I'm sorry, like people that watch anime, like, it's like, yeah, this person's gay, or yeah, this person's like Brazilian, or, you know, like, it doesn't matter, because and sometimes them being that way actually adds to the story, but not in a way that feels shoved in, or in a way that I'm trying to educate you about
Pandery.
very panderish, right? And so I feel like, again, with a lot of the American side of, you know, oh, we're gonna add this black character that, you know, maybe isn't supposed to be black, like maybe, you know, especially like in Vikings or something like that. It's like, why is there, you know, a black person like in a Viking storytelling? Like, it, to me, sometimes it doesn't make sense. You know what I mean? It's like, oh, we have to put this there for that racial diversity. It's like, but this wasn't a race that was particularly diverse. Like, they were all like white, you know, like Anglo-Saxon kind of people, you know what I mean? And I've heard people say, oh, well, there were slaves, or there was like, you know, they went to certain countries where they had black people and blah, 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 blah. But again, I feel like a lot of times, even if that were true, you always feel like they're trying to pull wool over your eyes because of the message, right? And you always think that
they're trying to compensate for a crappy product by saying, oh, well, okay, well, this product sucks, but hey, at least we're doing really inclusive, inviting things. It's like
right.
None of that can compensate for a crappy product.
Yeah, no, 100%, dude. Well, I gotta go because it's already going to be 10 o'clock.
Yeah,
I gotta take over for baby duty, dude. But dude, thank you so much, Burns, dude. This was such a great conversation, man. Like, it's always so great talking to you, man. And guys, I'm sure all of you are subscribed to him, but if you are not subscribe to our boy Ashes of Relation, aka Dr. Burns, you're dead to me. Get off my chat until you go subscribe to his channel. Okay. But yes, Grumpy, and I do love chicken. But yes, I also want to give a little bit of shout out there. I am probably going to try to push out my merch store sometime this week. So I am
this week.
Yes, this week.
Cool.
Hopefully, cross fingers, maybe something will happen that I have to wait a little bit longer, but I'm gonna try to push it out this week. I'm gonna make MMOs great again hats and make games great again hats. And it's gonna be really cool, man. I'm really excited about this particular little venture. So that way you guys can help support me and get some really nice merch on top of that. And I'm excited. My hat should be coming in actually on Monday or Tuesday. So hopefully I'll wear that next week for my 1v1 with Nico Tulo. But guys,
dude, I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, no, me too, man. Me too. It's always such a pleasure, guys, with you guys in chat. Zillin, Grumpy, Penumbra, Roar, Faithless, Phantom, all you guys. Thank you so much for coming on and chatting with me and Burns. We really appreciate you guys being here. And we will see you guys on the next one. Later, guys.